Hello and welcome! It is Team Modern Super League time once again. I'm Randy Bueller, joined by the inimitable Matt Nass. How you doing?
Doing good, yeah. I'm really excited to be in this league. Love Modern. Love it.
How do you feel about new cards for Modern? How do you feel about sets devoted to putting new cards into Modern?
Yeah, Modern Horizons is pretty sweet. I wasn't sure exactly how hard Wizards would go on this set because it's a pretty new experiment. You know, do they want to be a little more reserved? Do they kind of hold back and not push too hard on Modern? That's already a very popular format, but the new set really shook things up. I think almost every deck, or maybe literally every deck, has cards from the new set in it.
They went ham. They just went way over the top. It's going to be fun, right? I feel like you must have a notebook just bursting with ideas to do with all of these cards.
Yeah, normally when a new set comes out, there's 3 to maybe 5 cards that make it into Modern, or maybe a few more than that make it in, but that you're going to really build around or create new archetypes. Here, there might be 20 cards that create new archetypes and 50 cards that make it in. It's kind of crazy.
I agree. So you can't have gotten to all of them yet, right? The set is hot off the presses. We had to get sort of special permission just to get it into the 4 of accounts we're using. Definitely wanted to bring you guys out there, Modern Horizons fueled decks, as quickly as we can. But that means you were kind of on the spot with, a couple of days to actually test things, or how was that?
Yeah, it was definitely tight. I also personally have prepped for the Mythic Championship in Las Vegas next week. So
does that really matter? It's only what, $750,000 in prize money for a 68-person tournament.
No big deal. So I was kind of splitting my time a little bit, but yeah, the number one thing that's come out is this Hogak deck that is absolutely crazy. Kills on turn 3 on a regular basis and just completely goes off. There's the kind of artifact build-arounds that I gravitated towards because, it's a little similar to KC, or is just a little similar to KCI, artifacts generating mana. So sure. That definitely appealed to me. Didn't end up coming out with any Urza decks in this, but although the Word Prison has Urza in the sideboard, I believe.
Yeah, it's got somewhere in the 75 for sure.
Yeah. But not like a dedicated Urza deck. And yeah, I spent a little time trying to Goblin Engineer up Bolas's Citadels and Trash for Treasure them, but couldn't quite get that one to work in time. And there's some teams where I might be up for going deep and playing Brews, even if I wasn't 100% confident. but our opponents this time are tough competition. We beat them in the Vintage Super League finals.
Yes.
So we know how tough they are, and I didn't feel like I could go too loose with the Brews in this case.
So the Trash for Treasure Goblin Engineer, that doesn't sound like it's been discarded. That just sounds like it's, to be continued.
Oh, yeah. There's a good chance that'll show up next week. We'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Yeah, your opponents this week, you're playing for ChannelFireball. So the lineup for CFB, I know you guys have kind of the whole cluster of guys. Luis and Josh have said, maybe some weeks if we have time, we'll play them. But the main crew is you, BK, and Sam.
Yep, and that's the lineup we want to go with. That's going to be our default, and that's actually my household. So we're all in the same house right now, which is
that's good times.
Yeah, so we have the game on the TV in the living room, and then people rotate in as they commentate and play their rounds. Is the plan?
Nice. It's a good plan. Your opponents tonight are the guys from Mage Market. So they were Snap Cardster when you guys beat them in the Team Vintage Super League finals. That app, still the same app. They've just rebranded it. They've actually got some support. I think they did the Y Combinator thing. Actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. They are itching for revenge, from what I can tell. They specifically want you guys. They definitely want to try to run it back. I know Andreas was happy that he got the individual Vintage Super League that we just finished up. So
nice.
He felt like that was a modicum of salve to the wound. But
yeah. I feel like people assign more value to team events just because they're in terms of pride. It's just so much more.
100%, yeah, for sure. Now, so Hogak is the headline coming out of Modern Horizons. That seems like that's what people are playing.
Yeah.
You guys and your opponents both showed up with Hogak decks. That deck is just for real and going to be around for a while.
It crushed the Mox tournament that happened with Modern Horizons this weekend.
Okay.
There were like 6 in the top 16 or 8 or something like that, and it was just doing really well. And Sam
that's
played
with,
it in.
and
Sam
that's
played
with
it in
card
the,
availability as still an issue, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Some people probably weren't playing any Modern Horizon cards. Sam played it in that Mox and said it was insane. Said that he was turn 3 killing over half the time, and
Wow.
there's already a lot of talks on social media about it being banned before the Mythic Championship, and we'll have to see what happens. But it's a graveyard deck, so it can always be hated out, but it seems powerful. And when you have hate for it, it might have to be Leyline of the Void, or it might be too slow.
Wow. So yeah, I guess so. The Mythic Championship you were talking about coming up in Vegas in a week and a half, that one's on Arena. So not relevant to that one, but Barcelona is not too far after that. And that is a modern format,
right?
What used to be called a Pro Tour, right? That's the whole tabletop, 400 players-ish kind of a one.
Yeah, so there's a Mythic Arena Championship in a week and a half, then a Mythic Tabletop Championship in a little over a month. And that's the one that's modern. And the ban announcement for that would be, I believe, July 8th. So it would be about a month from now that the ban would happen.
All right. Well, they scheduled that pretty smartly then. If anything out of Modern Horizons does just plain break the format in half, there is actually an opportunity for Wizards to address it. And you think, sounds like definitely maybe is the initial word on Hogak?
I personally haven't played with it very much. I am playing it today. But I'm curious to see how it plays out myself. The other big one is, in terms of raw speed, is Infect. Scale up makes Infect a lot faster. I mean, there's a 5-card hand that's like 4 or even 4-card, I believe, or 5. Forest, Glistener Elf, Forest, Scale Up, and then a +4/+4.
Yeah.
Turn 2 kill you. 5 cards.
That's pretty crazy. It's funny when the spoiler came out for Scale Up, a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, how could they do this to Infect?" And then there was the pushback of, "It's not that bad. No, it's not actually." And it sounds like that is the other deck that both you and your opponents submitted for this week. So definitely noticed. I mean, the builds are a little different in the details, but you both said, "Oh, Scale Up. I'm supposed to turn to kill people with Infect now."
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a Become Immense that you don't need to do the work to set up the delve with. You don't have to add Mishra's Baubles or other awkward cards to your deck to support it. You just get it kind of for free.
Yeah, we will definitely get a chance to see that deck in action tonight as well. From there, I want to talk about this Celestial Kirin deck. Because at first glance, I was like, oh, look, both teams submitted a Devoted Druid combo deck, but yours that's like plan B somehow. Tell me about this Celestial Kirin deck, because that seemed like the sweetest, spiciest thing you guys are on.
Yeah, this is my favorite deck from our team. BK is going to be playing this one. So this deck actually kind of came into existence after the last set came out, War of the Spark, with Ugin's Conduit. And so what Celestial Kirin says is, whenever you cast a Spirit or Arcane spell, destroy all permanents with converted mana cost X. And where X is that card's casting cost. And normally, an effect like that would say destroy all non-land permanents.
Oh, God.
In this case, they didn't think that was necessary. At the time, there were no 0-cost Spirit or Arcane cards. There were Shoals that you could play for 0, but their converted cost was still based on the X. And so it just wasn't an issue. Ugin's Conduit is an X-mana creature that happens to be a Spirit. So if you play Conduit for X = 0 after playing a Celestial Kirin, you just Armageddon.
Wow. And
in addition, you can also play it for different X values. If they happen to have a lot of 2-drops in play, you can play it for X = 2.
Yeah. It remembers the X that you paid. I mean, I was looking at this when I saw the list. I have not seen this deck in action at all. I did not know this was a thing. I mean, is this like the grand unveiling? Has this deck shown up anywhere else, or is this just...
Yeah, I've seen people play the combo in Bant mid-range decks or whatever, but there's a couple different cards out of Modern Horizons that make this deck meaningfully better, and those are Eladamri's Call, which can tutor for either piece. And most of the tutors in Modern right now tutor things into play. Collected Company, Court of Calling, Eldritch Evolution, Green Finale. But this is a way to tutor something into your hand, so this is a good way to get the Conjurant. And the other big one is Ranger Captain of Eos, which can tutor up the Conjurant as well. And also, you can sacrifice it to force through your Devoted combo, force through the Celestial Kirin combo, and not get disrupted.
Yeah, I mean, your opponents basically looked at those cards, and they looked at Elid Armory's Call in particular and said, oh, we'll just go all in on the Druid combo, right?
Right.
They're on, Druid with the Vizier, which is whatever, infinite mana, and then figure out something to do with infinite mana. Not that hard to win once you have that. And yeah, you guys feel like you went a step further with the Celestial Kirin combo, which is, man, I saw the X equals whatever utility value. I missed the Armageddon. That is, it is symmetrical though, right? It hits all your stuff too.
Yeah, it does. It does. So you have to have some sort of better board presence when you do that. The other nice part about it is they don't actually get an opportunity to kill the Kirin. You play the Kirin, and you it's your turn. You have priority again. You put the Conjurant on the stack. Even if they play Lightning Bolt on the Kirin, Path to Exile on the Kirin, that Armageddon's still going off.
Yeah, the trigger's still in the stack, huh?
So that's definitely
zero mana Armageddon.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like 4 mana Armageddon, since most of the time you're going to do it the same turn you're playing the Kirin. But there will definitely be spots where you play Kirin and pass. Then the next turn you use your mana developing your board to make sure you have a stronger board than your opponent. Then drop the Conjurant for 0 and blow up all the lands.
That is awesome. So what was the deck that didn't quite make the cut?
Definitely the Bola Citadel deck was one.
Okay.
We were also looking at various decks with Dreadhorde Arcanist. One combo that Sam's into is Dreadhorde Arcanist with Haze of Rage. Haze of Rage is a 2-mana sorcery. Give 1 in a red. Give your team +1/+0, and it has Storm. So you play turn 2 Dreadhorde Arcanist, then you play a Monastery Swiftspear, play a Haze of Rage, giving your team +2/+0, attack, and because the Arcanist is bigger, it can rebuy the Haze of Rage, which then gives your team +3/+0, and you cast spells. It really doesn't take much before it becomes lethal. It would surprise you how quickly it does.
Wow.
And so we were playing around with that, but didn't quite come to a list we liked in time. And again, maybe against the weaker team, we'd consider it, but we took this match pretty seriously. We wanted to bring out the big guns.
Speaking of Eldrazi-Tron, not the most teched out spicy deck I've ever seen from your team.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that we brought that one, but Sam loves Eldrazi-Tron. He played it for a long time now, and the addition of Blast Zone is pretty big for the deck. You can Expedition map for it, and the deck is a mono brown deck, so it loves powerful colorless lands.
Again, a War of the Spark card rather than a Modern Horizons card. Right. Spark wasn't that long ago. I don't feel like Modern has, really even finished digesting that.
Right, and Karn is also the other big addition to this deck from War.
Yeah.
So not a lot of Modern Horizons stuff going on in this deck, but a decent amount of War of the Spark stuff going on in this deck. So hopefully that counts as cool enough, at least.
And so you said Sam loves that deck. He will be up first. Our first match is Sam against Andreas Peterson. Sam on the Eldrazi-Tron, and Andreas is going to be on their take on the Druid deck.
Yeah, so I think this should be slightly favorable for Druid. Sam doesn't have a ton of removal, but he does apply a lot of pressure. He has Ballista, Thought-Knot Seer. All his dust is pretty good. So if the game goes a little longer, if the Druid combo isn't just there on turn 3, and Sam can set up some of his lockout elements, then it could be tough. But the fast Druid draws will get there most of the time.
And their list for Druid does seem like it's trying to be, as fast as it possibly can, right? All the tutors essentially all in on finding the combo is the way I read it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Another kind of funny thing is, people are talking about how Giver of Runes is weaker than Mother of Runes because it can't protect itself. But there is one way that Giver of Runes is stronger than Mother of Runes, which is
Ballista?
that it can protect colorless. Yeah, so it's going to stop walking Ballista potentially. It can stop spatial contortion, warping whale type things, which I believe Sam has warping whale. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Also, at 2 toughness, it's a little harder to shoot down with a walking Ballista.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, also a little tougher in that way as well. But yeah, their list has 4 Devoted, 4 Vizier.
And you guys also put Givers in your Druid deck, right? Or what?
Yeah, we have a deck. You can tutor with the Ranger Captain of EO, so we don't need to play the full 4. You can find it if you need it.
Are they supposed to play Ranger Captain? That seems like it's only in yours.
Yeah, it can't find either piece of the Devoted combo. It can find a Walking Ballista to finish them off, but when you have the Kieran combo is where a lot of the value for the Ranger Captain comes from. Maybe they should still play it, but it's a closer call in their deck at the very least.
Makes sense. I guess we talked about all of your decks except you have a War Prison deck, right?
Yeah, so the War Prison deck, Sam is also a deck that Sam's played a lot of, and yeah, you were amused by the Possessed Portal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just to lock out the game. The big thing is against decks with Shatterstorm.
Okay.
No matter how many like prison pieces you set up, it's kind of hard to actually be in a position where a Shatterstorm wouldn't be backbreaking.
Okay.
So you actually want a card. In the past, I've seen Darksteel Forge, just all your artifacts are indestructible. Because while Regenerate doesn't work against Shatterstorm, Indestructible does. But this list opted for Possessed Portal, just so that they basically never draw a card again for the rest of the game.
Right, and so this sits in the sideboard as a one of and 4 copies of Karn the Great Creator.
Right.
Go fetch it exactly when you need it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think Sam will just never board it in. He could board it in and work for it as well, but
what does this do that why isn't Micah Scintillatus enough?
I think the concern is that I think maybe he will bring it in and whir for it. It might be that it's so that you have a way to whir to beat Shatterstorm. So yeah, maybe he will be bringing it in and whirring for it. I'm not 100%. Because
like you had me on the whole, okay, you need a defense against Shatterstorm, but
yeah,
you can't make mana sounds to me like a pretty good defense against Shatterstorm. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it is Sam will actually bring it in against the Shatterstorm, although I don't think he's facing one in this match, so it won't come up here most likely, unfortunately.
All right. Well, now talking about the other matches, we've got our first match ready to go. This is going to be Eldrazi Tron against Druid, Sam Pardee against Andreas Peterson. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. What do these draws look like? I see a Temple for Sam. Looks like it's Andreas who's on the play with the whole combo and some mana acceleration.
Yeah, this is pretty much the perfect hand from Andreas. He'll go turn 1 Noble, turn 2 Devoted, and I guess Sam does have the Warping Whale, so maybe he'll be okay. Sam actually mulliganed a decent hand just looking for removal because he knows on the draw against this deck he's going to need it. But otherwise, Andreas would have had a turn 3 kill. Turn 2 Devoted, turn 3 Vizier Infinite Mana, and then Eladamri's Call for a Walking Ballista kill you. One kind of awkward thing about Eladamri's Call in this deck is that some of the time you can't combo the turn you make infinite mana because of the white in the cost. It's a little easier to combo with Court of Calling or something like that.
You make infinite green mana with the combos, so.
Right, but in this case, Andreas has plenty of white mana. He also found another Eladamri's Call, so after this Devoted Druid gets Warping Wailed, he can just Eladamri's Call for another Devoted, play it, and then go for the Vizier combo the turn after. So this is pretty savage. Kind of the nut draw from Andreas.
Walking Ballista is not going to be in time, is it?
Yeah, I don't think the Ballista will be in time. One of the awkward things about this combo is that you actually need to kill the Devoteds. Killing the Vizier doesn't really help you because they can just make infinite mana in response, and Devoted has 2 toughness.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Sam can do. He'd have to play a Ballista for 2 and kill Devoted, or Chalice for 2 to stop Vizier in the call, and neither of those really seem possible. So I think he just has to draw a Dismember off the top at this point.
Just the long Warping Whale?
Yeah.
That doesn't make 4 mana. Can't Chalice for 2, can't Ballista for 2, just has to cross his fingers and hope it's not there, huh?
Yeah, he can kill a Noble, but the white mana issue is just not an issue in this game. So
and like you said, he could play a Ballista on 1, but infinite mana as a response to pinging Vizier wins the game anyway.
Yeah, I don't really see a way out here. I think Sam is dead, and that's impressive. A turn 4 kill through removal.
Indeed.
Definitely a strong play from Andreas.
All right. Well, Sam figures I may as well put this Ballista out there for 1. I can spend 4 mana putting a second counter on it next turn if I get a next turn.
Yeah, if there were a next turn. And as far as etiquette here, it's kind of awkward because Sam doesn't know whether Andreas has a way to use the infinite mana. So kind of the normal thing to do is to play the Eladamri's Call straight away, just to show that you in fact have something to do. I assume Andreas won't make all 40 mana before showing the Eladamri's Call. Although, maybe I'm wrong. One other trick for those of you who might want to play the Devoted Druid combo online is if you hold M, it will kind of auto-do the ability, and it makes it go a lot faster. That's just... is it M or W? I think it's M. That's just a random trick.
Probably M for mana, right?
Yeah, I think it's M for mana. Yep. That would at least make sense. But yeah, is Andreas making all 40 mana?
I don't know.
No. Okay. He shows the kill.
He's demonstrated, and yep, their Eladamri's Call demonstrates to Sam that the Ballista's coming, so Sam scoops.
Yep. Yeah, so there's no reason to make Andreas go through the motions there.
So also a sign of respect, I think, in that Sam didn't bother pinging the Vizier.
Yeah,
Andreas credit.
Yeah, Sam knows that Andreas isn't gonna mess that up.
Maybe not all that much respect shown. It's more like pinging it would have been showing disrespect somehow.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, does sideboarding change this much?
So Sam doesn't have a lot of sideboard cards because of the Karn board. So normally Eldrazi Tron might have a bit more removal, but Sam doesn't have much. And I guess Cage stops Court of Calling, but the question is, does he want to leave that in the board so that he can Karn for it, or does he want to bring it in?
Mm-hmm.
He also has an extra Ballista in the board that he could just bring in because it's a good draw in the matchup, where I think he's not going to Karn for it very much. As far as Andreas, it also looks like not a whole lot. Unified Will is decent here, but Sam does have creatures, so it's a little bit risky. Gadok Teague shuts off a decent amount. All is Dust, Ugin, and Karn.
Sure.
And Meddling Mage probably just names Dismember or something most of the time.
You said it was Eladamri's Call that got you guys thinking in this direction. It looked pretty good that game.
Yeah, no kidding. Andreas drew multiple and needed both to take the game. So yeah, definitely score one for Eladamri's Call. So Andreas' hand this game is also a turn 3 with protection, which is kind of wild. Because turn 1 Giver, turn 2 Devoted, turn 3 Tutor up Vizier, make infinite mana, Eternal Witness back the Chord.
Wow.
Then you can't chord for Walking Ballista because that one would die. But you can chord for Duskwatch Recruiter, start activating it infinite times until you find the Walking Ballista, and then kill them. So Sam's going to need to do something, and his hand doesn't really do much. It's tough, though, because at 5, you might not be able to apply enough pressure. So not sure what Sam will do here. The turn 2 Mattery Shaper is at least something. That is decent pressure. And Chalice could maybe disrupt Andreas a little bit, although I think 2 is the number that you want Chalice on most of the time in this matchup.
Totally. And it's interesting, the last time I watched High Level Modern was at the Mox Finals, and it felt like Urza decks with new Karn were just crushing. But all of a sudden, with Modern Horizons, these combo decks just look a turn faster.
Yeah, the combo decks are pretty speedy, so we'll have to see how the Tron of both the Eldrazi and non-Eldrazi variety can hang with them. So one interesting thing here is that if Andreas does want to go for the turn 3, he'll either have to tap Giver of Runes to make the Chord go for 2, or put a counter on Devoted Druid. If he puts a counter on Devoted Druid, it's vulnerable to Walking Ballista. If he taps Giver of Runes, he might open himself up to a Dismember or something. So there will be some risk either way, but if he does the Devoted thing, he can use the Giver to give pro colorless. If he taps Giver, then he still won't get punished by Sam's current hand.
He'll see Walking Ballista coming, though.
Yeah, and he'll see it coming, so he should be able to play around it.
Speaking of things he can see coming, Blast Zone enters Sam's hand off the Expedition map, which is good, but it's 3 to activate, right?
Yeah, so Sam's going to put a counter on it this turn with plans to to leave up Blast Zone for 2 next turn, and that's just going to be too slow.
It sounds awfully familiar to the last game where, he
Yeah.
needed one more turn. He needed to get to 4 mana to actually answer this combo. And he didn't get it last game. He doesn't look like he's going to get it this game.
Yeah, so the only question here is if
does Andreas go for it?
Yeah, but given that he can leave Giver up, I think he'd have to be crazy not to. The other thing is, if he goes for it and let's say Sam has Dismember plus Spatial Contortion, Dismember plus Warping Wail, or something like that, it's still not even that punishing, I think. Because the Court for 2 still resolves. It's not like it gets countered if you kill the Devoted on the stack. And you can just get Vizier anyway, then play the Devoted from your hand, and just kind of set it up all over again.
Wow. So last game was turn 3 kill through a removal spell.
Last game was turn 4 on the play.
Oh, turn 4 on the play, right. Turn 4 on the play.
Through removal. And this game is
turn 3 with Giver untapped to protect.
Yeah, pretty wild. So,
wow.
And once the Witness comes down, Sam will concede.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, Andres has infinite mana, but he needs to show that he has a way to spend it. You know what? Court of the Calling counts.
Yep, definitely.
That was fast.
Yeah, turn 4, turn 3. That's Modern for you. That's the essence of Modern.
We need a little Force of Negation action, perhaps.
Yeah. Force of Negation definitely going to be an important card. There's some fast decks out there in Modern nowadays.
Wow.
And you better be ready.
Mage Market has a blue-white control with a couple of Force of Negations, right? You guys did not bring anything along those lines?
No, we did not play with Force of Negation. We're kind of focused on our own plan, not disrupting enemy plans for the most part. I guess War Prison being the exception. There
are certainly some sweet plans to focus on. All right, that was round 1. Blink and you might have missed it, but Devoted Druid combo looked pretty good in the hands of Andreas Peterson there. Mage Market takes the quick 1-0 lead. Matt is going to go head down, and it's your turn to play, right? Anything?
Yeah, now it's my turn to try to turn 3 people with Hogak, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, up against Infect, is there anything we should be looking for in that matchup, or is it just a race?
More fast games is what you should be looking for, yeah.
All right, don't go anywhere. We will be right back with the second round of Modern Horizons Fueled Team Modern Super League right after this.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hello and welcome back to round 2 now of the Team Modern Super League. I'm joined by Andreas Peterson.
Hello, Sam. Happy to be here on the winning end of an exciting match between us.
Yeah, that was quite a beating. Eldrazi I think is best against sort of decks that are looking to interact with you, like trying to stop you from enacting your game plan. And your deck really was focused on doing its own thing. And my interaction did not line up particularly well.
No, that's basically what the conclusion we made when we just had a meeting a few hours ago. That if my deck does my thing and in yours also, I'll come out on top in most games. And yeah.
Yeah, I was really also feeling the lack of sideboard cards. Like normally when I've played the deck in the past, you didn't have Karn, so you had like access to a full sideboard, and I'd have a bunch of Pithing Needles and Dismembers to bring in. Not so much there.
Yeah,
so I really didn't have much to do.
Did you actually bring in the cage, or did you keep it in the board?
I kept it in the board. I was uncertain about it. I wasn't even sure it would be that good if I drew it, honestly. Like, you had Postmortem Lunge and Chord, but that's about it that it actually impacts, right? Yeah, so it was like only 5 of your cards. Probably didn't really seem worth it.
No, it makes sense. I'm just used to seeing collected campaign decks like this, so it would traditionally shut down 8 cards. But yeah, you're right. It's not that many in this version.
Right. The Eladamri's Call stuff just makes it so much less impactful. It's so much like Eladamri's Call might sometimes be less powerful than Company, but it's so much harder to hate out and interact with than Company is, and so much more consistent.
Yeah,
like
we actually had some. We had some talks on within the team whether this deck should play Company or not. I was not a fan of it in a new world where the decks are more less about attrition and more about speed. So I just wanted to find my bullets and combo kill rather than in the past you could hit stuff like Voice or Finks or whatever and play a fair game. I wasn't interested in doing that today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. That's been my experience with sort of the speeding up modern format. Like, you really don't want to be relying on the attrition-y plan B sort of stuff. You really want to just make your plan A as efficient and worthwhile as possible.
Yeah, that was my mindset anyway.
Yeah. So next up, what do we got? We got Thomas against Matt Nass, Infect against Hogak.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how the Hogak deck fares. I haven't really played with or against it, so yeah, I'm just pretty excited to see how explosive it is.
Yeah, I have some experience. I played it in the Modern Challenge last weekend.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty busted. It felt like, I think I made some mistakes. I was not tight enough with my mulliganing range. I should have mulliganed a little more to try to have the more explosive starts. But boy, the hands where it feels like any hand where you end up with Hogak, Altar of Dementia, and 1 bridge in your graveyard, you win the game immediately. And it's just crazy.
I can imagine.
And then again, some people maybe they have Rest in Peace to interact, but you just play Hogak on turn 2 on the play, and then they can, you don't care if they spend 2 mana on Rest in Peace. You have an 8/8 and whatever other random graveyard stuff you happen to get back.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to see it, and also we haven't even seen it with the new the London Mulligan yet. We haven't seen that deck. I guess it benefits a lot from that because you need to piece a lot of hands together. I mean, you need a lot of pieces.
I would think so. Like, the deck does do better the more cards you have in your hand, obviously, because it's a Faithless Looting deck. It's good at converting raw cards in hand into useful bits, but the more the more you can get Faithless Looting in your openers, the better you're going to do, I think.
Yeah, so I'm just curious to see how the format reacts to it, because it does seem kind of fragile on the surface. But time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I've been impressed with the resiliency. It feels like if the hate cards aren't really, really pointed, like Leyline or Rest in Peace, then it's not that hard to wiggle out from under them. And even when they are, some of the sort of fair, I played a turn 1 Carrion Feeder, turn 2 got a Blood Gas down, that stuff does add up and can actually kill people pretty reasonably.
Yeah, what about Grafdigger's Cage? As we see in Thomas's sideboard, a turn 1 Grafdigger's Cage will be pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think Cage is pretty effective. It doesn't stop Bridge from working, but it does stop all of the recursive stuff. So it makes the effectiveness of like bridge in the yard plus like carrion feeder, gravecrawler a lot lower.
Yeah, so no Hogak, and I guess it also shuts down the altar, right? You can't really go completely bonkers with that if there's a cage in play.
Right, you're not going to be able to mill yourself in the same way. So yeah, it's a lot worse for that. But Matt has some interaction in the sideboard. He's got the ingot chewers and the shenanigans, so he should be able to interact with cage. And sometimes maybe if the cage comes down not on turn 1, there'll already be a Hogak in play. You can also still cast Hogak from your hand, which is something not to be discounted. Sometimes you just draw it.
Sounds like we're ready, Sam, for the matchup.
Yeah. So
let's
we've got
get down to it.
Yep, Thomas Enevoldsen against Matt Nass, and here we go. Let's see what we've got there.
Thomas is also showcasing some new toys.
So Thomas
He's playing Scale Up.
Yeah, so he has a turn 2 kill aside from missing double green, it looks like, right? Like he has turn 1 Glistener, turn 2 Scale Up plus Groundswell would be lethal.
Oh yeah. So
that's
green
explosive.
mana source on top is a turn 2 kill, and there's not a lot Matt can. Oh,
well,
he actually has a. Okay.
Yeah, Matt actually can block.
Yep.
And Matt has also a pretty great draw. It looks like if he is able to land that, if he finds a second land here, he's going to be in good shape, because the way Insolent Neonate works with Bridge from Below, you actually create a token when you sacrifice the Neonate discarding the bridge, which is a little bit of an unintuitive interaction, but that's actually how it works. So turn 1, it looks like Thomas was on the play. Turn 1 Glistener Elf. I think
so not the draw
pretty valuable.
Wanted. I guess altar number 2 is just redundant.
Yeah, second altar doesn't do a lot. Thomas is not going to be interacting with the altars in any way, shape, or form. So, but a blocker, so Thomas can't just go Scale Up, kill you.
Yep.
That's worth something. And then like I said, I think Matt really just needs a second land here, and he can probably go pretty bananas.
So I'm excited to see how aggressive Thomas is here. Because
do
I
you
mean that
think Thomas
Neonate
should
is just going to
here?
sit there. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that Thomas can know that Matt only has that one land, so Matt is probably going to cycle away that Neonate anyway, but there's no way he can know that, so I guess he's willing to trade his mutagenic growth.
Okay, yeah, so you think the way this will play out is Thomas attacks, Matt blocks, then Thomas plays mutagenic growth, then Matt sacrifices the Neonate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable.
And I'm not sure what Thomas would have done if he hadn't drawn the mutagenic growth.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting, because the vines don't actually do a ton of protecting here.
Yep.
They're
pretty bad right now.
Yeah, with only one green source. So yep, looks like it's going exactly as you said. And Matt's just really looking to draw lands here. Any land is a good land at this point. Yeah. And he's going to get his 2/2. And a Gravecrawler. Okay, not great, but not terrible either. It means he can slowly start to make 2/2s using Gravecrawler plus Carrion Feeder. Of course, he's in a lot of trouble to that Ink Moth that he has no way to block.
Yeah, it depends a lot on if Thomas can find a land, I guess.
Yeah, so now Matt also has to make a decision about how much he wants to try to race, or if he wants to, block again, which I think I err towards the side of blocking again.
Yeah. I guess the land drop of Inkmoth Nexus, it could mean that Thomas either doesn't have any more lands or that he's just trying to set up a flying attacker. So there's no way for Matt to know that was Thomas's last land.
Right. Yeah. It feels like regardless of how many lands in hand, unless Thomas had, the perfect turn 2 kill, which he didn't through a blocker, he would probably be playing Inkmoth regardless.
Yeah.
So it looks like Matt's going to just deploy the Carrion Feeder here and decline to attack. So probably next turn he'll start attacking, because he can play the Gravecrawler and sacrifice it to make a blocker. And there's Inkmoth. That's pretty bad news for Matt. So that means he's probably going to take 6 this turn, and then, he's going for just 5.
Yeah, he's going for the Groundswell thanks to Landfall, which he isn't assured of having next turn.
Right, that makes sense, yeah, because if he did the 6 this turn, he might only have 3 next turn with a
that would be disastrous.
non-landfall. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So thankfully,
still has outs here if he hits a land, but I'm not sure. He might not be able to win. He might need to find a removal spell. So
Well,
a
let's
fetch
see.
land.
What's that gonna do?
So he can play the altar, but I think it looks like he's one card in graveyard short to me of being able to get Hogak down and mill
So how does the
himself.
math work on Hogak? Yeah, take me through it.
So you need 2 creatures in play at minimum to get it into play.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no,
to pay for the.
Yeah, so that's to pay for the convoke. So he actually can do that because he can play the altar, sacrifice the carrion feeder to the altar, targeting himself, and trigger his bridge to get a zombie.
Yeah.
That'll leave him with a total of 6 cards in his graveyard, one of which is a bridge from below. So he can delve away the 5 non-bridge cards, tap his 2 zombies, get Hogak into play, then sacrifice to the altar targeting himself, which will net him another zombie and mill him for 8. I guess at that point he is actually going to be a little bit short because he's not going to have a second black creature. So I'm not sure what he can do to play around that to help him out here. I guess what he can do is first sacrifice the zombies to mill for 4, and if he hits a second bridge, then he'll end up with 2 black creatures, and that'll be huge. That seems like the best line to me. I don't see anything better for him.
Yeah, he needs to go for it. He needs to suspect that a kill is coming.
Yeah, when you take 5 infect on one turn and see that they have the means to cast another green spell, it's pretty likely you're taking 5 again next turn.
Yeah.
So it looks like Matt agrees with us and is going with a similar line. So yeah, that'll put him up to 5, and I guess the good hits would be. He doesn't really have any good hits yet. One other trick that you can do that works pretty well with this deck is cast a Hogak and hold priority and sack the Hogak that's already in play to do it. But because Matt's going off from such a low base here, he probably won't have the luxury of being able to do that.
So you can pay, you can convoke with 1 Hogak to play another. That's And because of the legend rule, it'll die. So you need to respond to the second Hogak. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So you put it on the stack, but respond. You have to hold down control on Magic Online and respond by sacrificing the one that's in play. So that way you don't have to lose it to the legend rule. You get to still use it with your altar.
So he needs to exile his whole graveyard aside from the bridge from below here. That's convenient.
Right. Yep. Whole graveyard other than bridge, then mill himself for 4 using the 2 zombies he has in play. And if he manages to hit another bridge, he's in business. Otherwise, I don't really see what else he can do. So it looks like he hit Hogak and Carrion Feeder with the first mill, and the second mill is not it either. So pretty close. I mean, he if he'd drawn the second land on the first turn, I think this game would have been over pretty quickly. That just shows how explosive this deck is. Like, he missed the second land drop, didn't really do that much, and still came within an inch of winning.
So what if he hit the second bridge here? What would happen?
So if he hits the second bridge, he sacrifices the Hogak to mill himself, gets 2 zombies, which now leaves him with enough material to convoke the Hogak back into play.
Tap
and he's
2 black creatures, delve 5 cards.
Right. And he's milled himself for 8, so he's added, +3 cards to his graveyard. At some point, he'll also hit some Vengevines, and as long as that's before the second Hogak casting, he gets those back as well, which also then he can sacrifice to the altar, convert into 2 more black creatures. Basically, you mill yourself out completely, then you mill them out, and that's that.
Right. And that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really, really crazy kill. And also it has the plan B of course, for some reason your opponent has an Emrakul or whatever. It's not really effective because you also just make a million things with bridge from below, and that's good enough. You end up with 15 zombies or whatever in play and a Hogak, so that's often powerful enough to get the job done.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I'm always impressed when people come up with these new decks.
Yeah.
And maybe this is actually one of the more obvious ones. I'm just very bad at coming up with
I mean, this one feels to me like an evolution of the Bridgevine deck that people were playing around about Pro Tour, the 25th anniversary Pro Tour, the team one.
Yeah.
So Thomas finished things out with, you got the scale up off. And now, what do you think Thomas is looking to board here?
We're just boarding in the 4 graveyard hits, bringing out some situational cards that don't do a whole lot in the matchup. I think it's Spell Pierce and Mutagenic Growth we're looking at. Spell Pierce, sure, you can catch an altar if you're super lucky, but I actually think Thomas wants to bring in 1. I think that's where we ended up.
Okay.
He likes the idea of just countering an altar and looking super smart. But
I mean, you can also catch a Faithless Looting too.
Yeah, sure. And but yeah, we're on the draw for this game, so that could change a little bit. Yeah, the vines are just. I mean, Matt doesn't have that much removal going on, and vines are kind of clunky when you have to use them as a pump spell. So yeah, those go out.
Absolutely, makes a lot of sense. So from Matt's side, we decided just Ingot Chewer, not Shenanigans. Shenanigans is a little slow, and not that important. And then he's bringing in also 1 more Necrotic Wound, so an additional removal spell.
Yeah.
And it looks like both players are missing some pieces in their first opening hands. So a mulligan from Matt.
Yeah, and the same for Thomas. He actually has to turn 2 kill. But yeah, Matt has the removal spell, so.
Yeah, but Matt doesn't actually have a great way to get.
Yeah, you're right.
The graveyard.
He might not even
really costly for him.
Matt might not even keep that hand.
Yeah, this hand doesn't look like it does too much. It doesn't even if you draw the second land to land the altar, it doesn't really get you anywhere. It looks like. So I think I would ship it back if I were Matt.
Yeah.
Thomas's hand, of course, looks pretty ideal, although the scale up being a sorcery does matter, right? You have to commit it before they get to decide if they want to block or not.
Yeah. It's very good at gold fishing, but once you're facing removal spells and blockers, not so good.
Right. And Thomas's hand also contains a Waterlogged Grove, another new card that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had the job of pitching ideas for deck lists, and I just figured that deck could support a couple of those. You don't really want to get flooded, and your life total doesn't matter that often, so I thought it was a good fit.
Yeah, our version, I didn't feel like we could afford to play it because we're playing the 3-mana Teferi in the main deck.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a little too much of a strain on the mana base, but if you're just straight blue-green, I think it seems like a slam dunk to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Thomas drew Pendelhaven, and Matt did decide to keep that hand, so that's going to kind of set the pace for this game a little bit.
So now
let's see
Matt
if he fires off turn 1.
Yeah. The thing is here, he needs to sacrifice his own Carrion Feeder for the wound to kill the elf, right?
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to deploy Altar of Dementia instead, which means he's going to die.
Yeah, because Carrion Feeder can't block, unfortunately.
Right. Yep, Carrion Feeder does not get to block. So yeah, there's the altar for Matt, and this hand is shaping up. Like if Matt draws another creature that he can use to mill himself, particularly a recursive one like Bloodghast or Gravecrawler, he could probably do some pretty powerful things on turn 2 or on turn 3. But it looks like he's just going to die this turn. This is exactly what Scale Up is for, right?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, the way I felt about Scale Up is that it's like Become Immense that is always on, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison, for sure. We only played 3 though. I don't know if you can. I noticed you guys played 4. In theory, I don't want to draw 2 copies of that card, but yeah, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't played a ton of games with it. We just wanted to try it out and get some turn 2 kills, hopefully, just like Thomas did. So there we go. Unfortunately, we're down 2-0 now.
Yeah, you need to bring it back, and let's see. The next match is going to be Michael. He's also on Hogak's Bridge, and he's playing against Andrew Beckstrom on your take on Devoted Druid combo. Yeah,
I'm not sure how that matchup will go. I think probably not the best matchup for this. Like the Celestial Kirin part of BK's deck doesn't really do much in that matchup. Destroying all of the Hogak players' lands is not really where you want to be, and interacting with their creatures is also not great. So we'll see how that works out. I know BK did. I think he added he had talked about adding at the last minute, adding some amount of ley lines, and yeah, he did. So that'll definitely
He
help.
has 3 copies of Leyline, and we fear those.
Yep. So that, all right. Well, we'll see how that goes, and we're gonna send it down to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Team Modern Super League. We're about to fire off round 3. I'm Matt Nash, joined by Thomas Enevoldsen.
Hello.
And now we have, after 2 crazy fast matches, we had turn 3, turn 4, turn 4, and turn 2. The actual nut draw. Pretty crazy. Carrion Feeder can't block, unfortunately. That was a pretty sweet game.
Yeah, had some relevant text at the top of the card as well. Not only the sack effect. When you play that matchup, Infect against the Hogak deck, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's actually some very annoying one drops. The Stitcher supplier in particular is quite annoying. Because you don't even want to trade a pump spell for it. And the same with the Neonate. You know, you saw game 1 that I had to sort of save my creature, and then you still get the effect of it. But yeah, without anything to block, turn 2 kill is very possible in this format now.
Yeah, definitely a crazy, and we might see some more fast games this round. We have another Hogak deck, this time Michael Bondi piloting that, versus Andrew Beckstrom on the Celestial Kieran deck that also has the Devoted Druid combo.
Yeah, that deck looks like a really sweet deck. I'm only missing the Karn combo from that deck. Then it has all the combos modern, basically.
Yeah. We should have thrown that one in there. So do you have thoughts on this matchup? I know the Kieran deck's a little off the wall, but who might be favored, how it might play out?
I mean, I noticed that there are only 3 ley lines in Andrew's sideboard, I think. That's obviously very, very well relevant for games 2 and 3. I think game 1, it's basically a race, like we've seen so far in the first 2 rounds. There's not a lot of disruption on either side. I don't think that Andrew's sort of land destruction plan of Kieran plus Ugin's Conjurant is particularly important in this matchup. But of course, the Druid combo, as we saw with Andreas, can go very fast as well.
Oh, yeah. I think a few things to look out for. One is that Andrew may just play the Conjurant for 0 to kill some bridges, exile bridges.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
That does count as a creature dying. And the other thing is the Kieran Conjurant combo not only going to blow up all the lands, but it'll also blow up all the tokens. So
yeah, that's a good point.
If there are bridge tokens in play, it could sweep those up. Often, if there's bridge tokens in play, it means you're just dead. But
yeah, that's my impression as well. But at least something to look out for. And the same with the Druid, can also kill itself to remove any bridges, especially if Andrew's on the play, that might be relevant.
Yeah, definitely some relevant ways to kill your own creatures. Walking Ballista, of course, can also do that. So
that's the new interaction in Modern, is how to kill your own creatures.
Yeah, I guess Ranger Captain can as well. So Andrew actually has a lot of creatures that can sacrifice themselves. So maybe he'll manage to shut down the bridges and take some games
just by taking out his own board.
Yeah, we could definitely use the help because we're down 0-2 at the moment to some really fast kills.
Yeah.
Is there any other?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, is there any other relevant interaction that Andrew has? It looks like he has Path to Exile. That doesn't seem like the best, actually. If you don't have the altar out, maybe it could do something.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably not that important. I mean, at least you have to have it on turn 1, then I would assume, to sort of break up the combo. But also, like, just Michael's more sort of average Vengevine draws. There might actually be some interaction
Yeah, it seems like the Hogak deck kind of has a few different games, right? Some games it does Altar plus Hogak and just wins on turn 3, goes crazy. And some games it kind of plays a little slower, grindier. Maybe it casts a Hogak but doesn't have Altar, or maybe it just reanimates some Vengevines, plays kind of like the old Bridgevine deck did.
Yeah, exactly. And this time they also have an 8/8 trample to include in
yeah, why not? Yeah, that definitely makes the plan of just trying to like chump block, which a green-white deck might normally do, a little bit trickier.
More difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Knight of Bottom might also come in just to blow up the altar, at least on the play.
Sure. But, I think any form of interaction against this, I mean, the deck is still the Bridgevine deck, or whatever you want to call it, is still a bit sort of glass cannon-y. So there are definitely any way to interact with it is something Andrew would be looking to bring in here.
Yeah, you could board in Selfless Spirit as well, just to have yet another self-sacrificing creature.
Yeah. And I think he has an Ooze in the sideboard as well.
Yeah, he has a Scavenging Ooze. Might be a little slow.
Yeah, it requires a lot of things to go right for him. But again, another piece of small interaction. And once you sort of pick the deck apart, winning after that becomes very trivial. So
right, all the hope from for Team ChannelFireball is that all these small things will kind of add up.
Exactly, it's all these percentages
to be enough to shut down the Hogak deck. But it is not an easy deck to shut down.
Nope, that's been my experience so far.
Yeah, even in our game, you saw I almost won on turn 3 after I missed my second land drop. It's
I mean, you just needed a better sort of hit off the two zombies. You got the first bridge there.
Yeah, I needed to find a second bridge, and it sounds like the match is ready. So let's head down for round 3 of the Team Modern Super League. All right, so it looks like Michael has a decent hand, although I still might mulligan it. And Andrew's hand has turn 3 infinite mana, but it's a little bit flooded and doesn't actually have anything to do with it. But it looks like they both kept. and Andrew's on the play, so he'll get the chance to turn 3 first.
Yeah, I guess he has turn 3 infinite mana, so he just needs one way to sort of go off after that, and Michael has some setting up to do here.
Right, so cards Andrew could draw that would work. One is Ranger Captain of Eos, that can find Walking Ballista. If he drew the Vizier, then he could chord for something to do with the infinite mana. He could chord for the Ranger Captain, then that would get Ballista. If he draws Eladamri's Call, that would cover it.
Yeah, I think, so I assume that he has to chord on turn 3 for the Ranger Captain, and then for the Vizier, and then he would be out of white mana, right? For that turn at least.
Oh yes, so
it would have to be a green creature,
well,
like Eternal Witness. I'm not sure if he's playing that one.
Eladamri's Call would work because he would Eladamri's Call for the Vizier, then make him mana that way, then chord for Ranger Captain. So you have to get a little bit fancy when you're trying to get all these tutors to
especially
work.
when you're under the clock, like Hogak's deck sort of puts you.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like this is more of a fair draw. No bridges, no altars, no Hogaks, no Vengevines even. So it's just going to be kind of like some 2/2 beats. And assuming Andrew draws a spell at some point, I think he should have a pretty good chance in this one.
Yeah, Michael definitely needs to spin through his deck also with this Neonate and the Flashback Looting to get closer to a fast win against Andrew's deck here.
Yeah, what would be the best card for Michael to draw here? Is it just Hogak? Is it Bridge from Below?
I mean, I think he needs to get some bridges. He needs to get a bridge in the graveyard, but I mean, right now there's just mana for the grave crawlers and sort of just building a large carrion feeder as well. But I think he needs maybe even some Vengevines to sort of to be more hasty, I guess.
And Giver of Runes is not going to cut it. So does Andrew want to just chord for the Vizier to kind of get it out of the way, or is it better to slow play this and try to kind of see which piece of the combo you draw, what you end up needing?
Yeah, that's actually very interesting because he has some time at least with this a bit slower draw from Michael's side that maybe he wants to at least see one more draw.
Maybe not anymore. Neonate pitching Vengevine, then he can sack Gravecrawler to Carrion Feeder, replay it, and that'll reanimate the Vengevine. Even if you cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard, it counts as casting a spell.
That's true. So that at least puts him on a 2-turn clock now without blocking. Ooh, this one might be interesting.
Yeah, would you play Cathartic Reunion here to kind of dig deeper and go for the kill next turn, or would you just take the sure thing and reanimate the Vengevine?
I think I'd. Well, it seems like Michael has chosen already, but I actually like going for the Vengevine here. Since
that was my leaning too.
If Andrew had a turn 3, if he had the combo in hand, it would be very likely that he'd just go for this turn, the turn 3. So I'd assume he wouldn't have it and put him in jump block mode next turn.
Right. Oh wow. So that is a lot of action off the Cathartic Reunion.
Yeah, that should produce something next turn at least, I would say.
Yeah, without the altar, can he actually kill next turn, or is it still going to be the turn after next that he kind of represents lethal?
He probably needs to find that, right?
So it looks like Andrew is going for the end of turn chord. I wonder what type of outs this opens up for him. Like, what cards can he draw now that he couldn't draw otherwise?
Yeah,
I guess Ranger Captain is the big one.
Yeah, okay. So far, no luck. Noble's another blocker. Now it's time to see what Michael can do with these with half of the combo in hand at least.
Yeah, Andrew's playing a fetch just to thin his deck, just wants to have the highest chance of drawing a spell that works well with infinite mana.
Yeah. Ooh, another Vengevine. But no, he needs to looting to get that in the yard.
And from there, he wouldn't be able to reanimate it this turn.
That's true.
So it seems like Michael's not going to be able to kill this turn. So all he wants to do is make sure that he at least gets some pretty good pressure going and maybe gets the Hogak down, because the trample there is going to be pretty big. With Andrew already at 9, and 8/8 trample is no joke.
Yep, although his attack this turn is not that impressive due to the Giver of Runes also protecting one of Andrew's creatures. So the Carrion Feeder won't get through probably, and then maybe just a hit for 4 then.
Yeah, barring jump blocks, it'll be a hit for 4.
Jump block for a turn.
Right, the Noble isn't actually providing much value on this board. So it's pretty dispensable.
Yeah.
And is there anything that Michael could mill here that would change things? It seems like, actually kind of punished for playing a land before playing the
Yeah, there was another blood gas that could have gotten in for 2 damage here.
Oh, so Michael's going to kind of approach this a different way. Instead of trying to use... he can still play Hogak. So he's going to double bridge, use this bridge to get a bunch of tokens, and then drop Hogak as well. Now that the bridge is in the yard, though, it seems like he might not want to attack at all.
Yeah, he should probably just... he should probably hold back and then sack as many creatures as possible to get the zombie tokens, and then just go for the actual lethal next turn.
Yeah, so if he has 4 zombies and the Hogak coming through, Andrew could theoretically block all 4 zombies and just take the hit from the Hogak and still survive. But the blood gas haste should make it lethal. So I think it's going to be really tough for Andrew to survive the next turn.
Yeah, he needs something off the top here. Basically, I guess, tutors and the Ranger Captain, also a tutor, and then the Ballista. I guess, does Squatch Recruiter in this deck as well?
No recruiters in this one. The outs are 3 Ranger Captain, 1 Walking Ballista, 2 Court of Callings left in the deck, 4 Eladamri's Calls, and then Ugin's Conduit could be an infinite, but which I guess could block the Hogak. So that might actually be a decent draw
sure.
as well.
Michael needs to decide if he wants to push through some damage this turn as well.
Yeah, he'll lose the bridges if he does that, but he could go for it. It seems to me like he's trying to take a turn off.
Yep.
So for the actual lethal, there's 3, 7, 9, 10 outs, it looks like, out of 46 cards. Yeah, not sure.
Well, he's got to thin a land now, right? Probably.
Yeah, I'll thin a land, so it'll be 10 out of 45. So, yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
And the Vengevine's coming back now too. Hogak and Stitcher Supplier were cast this turn. Oh, he is actually going for an attack. So he's just okay with losing the bridge.
You can make the zombies beforehand, I would assume, right?
Yeah, probably the Gravecrawler at least will get sacked. Not sure if anything else.
Although it does represent the same amount of damage either way. Well, at least 1 more for the Carrion Feeder, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like Michael has lethal next turn, one way or another. So Andrew really needs to find something.
It's all going to come out of that, come down to that 10 out of 45 draw.
Yep.
And Andrew actually decides to chump with the Giver instead of the Noble.
Yeah, I like that. It's not going to do anything relevant anymore, and he just needs to keep his creatures.
Here we go. The slow roll. Andrew's not clicking the draw button. He's floating some mana in his upkeep. Playing it up for the crowd a little bit.
Sure.
No, it's a land.
It's a land.
Oh, and he's playing it up even more.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. He just didn't... I mean, that's sort of, I guess, the flip side of these sort of very combo-ish decks that sometimes you just draw the one half and you don't get to see what you can actually do with all that power you had.
Yeah, so Michael boarding in Lightning Axes and Nature's Claims.
Yeah.
Nature's Claims for the ley lines, Lightning Axe to disrupt the combo.
Yeah. And it seems like Andrew's boarding out the sort of the more grindy version of the combo of the deck and getting in as much interaction as we discussed prior to the game. Actually, we had an interesting discussion on our side whether to board in all the interaction or just some of the interaction, namely the Nature's Claim, the Lightning Axis, and I believe there's another removal spell in there.
Yeah, one kind of...
the Thought Seizes.
Yes. Yeah, one kind of tricky thing when you're playing a deck... go ahead.
Our reaction was to not... I mean, you can't board in that many cards because you want to keep the deck sort of stable.
Yes, decks like this are very linear decks. You don't want to dilute them too much because at some point they just won't really function.
Exactly. So what we were thinking was that the Thought Seizes won't work against the ley line anyway. So it was sort of just to have the most answers at instant speed to whatever Andrew was going to do, rather than do it preemptively, since Thoughtseize only deals with one side of the combo anyway. If you can call Leyline of the Void and having it in your opening hand a combo.
Yeah, that's
I assume
a
it is at
combo
this
of
point.
sorts. And Team Mage Market up a game yet again. Andrew definitely going to take the play. Very racy matchup.
Yep.
Both players have a
Everything's
little
about-
bit more disruption now, but it's still a pretty racy matchup for sure.
Yeah, but Andrew's definitely looking for a Leyline of the Void in his opening hand.
Yeah,
and Michael
how
has
hard
the
would you mulligan?
usual gamble.
Yeah. Oh wow, no green, but he does have the Nature's Claim.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to keep this, but maybe you. What do you think?
Yeah, I would. I agree on mulliganing Andrew's hand, and I like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Keeping Michael's hand. I thought Andrew boarded out the Kieran Conjurant.
I thought so as well.
Maybe he left in one of each.
Leyline.
Okay, so Michael will have to find a green source quickly to answer that ley line. Can't really function until that happens.
Well, I mean, he can just play a turn 1, 2-1 and hope for the best, right?
Yeah, definitely. And Andrew's hand doesn't look great, so it might actually work.
Yeah, I think that Michael is correct to just go for the beatdown plan from the get-go and then see, okay, well, that was a good draw.
Yep, Andrew maybe scried that or scried away a card to set that up and picked up the land. And the ooze will be nice because of the Leyline of the Void buying time. The ooze may actually be fast enough to be a relevant disruption piece this time, whereas normally it might not be in this matchup.
Yep, and Andrew's hand's kind of slow. Oh, okay, but here we go.
So if Andrew draws another white source next turn, he'll be able to set up the infinite mana combo and play an infinite Ugin's Conjurant.
Yeah, which, and a lot of Michael's creatures aren't really that good at blocking. So
I guess now Michael did pick up the green source for Nature's Claim, Marshflat's Confined Overgrown Tomb. So
but Michael's problem here is that Andrew can make infinite mana next turn and exile any card Michael ever put in the table.
Yeah, the infinite mana combo also really strong with Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah.
So it's going to depend a lot. If Andrew can draw the white source here, that'll be huge. No white source, but he drew another way to make infinite mana. So there's no way to actually win the game this turn. He can make infinite mana, make the infinite Ugin's Conjurant.
Yeah. And then Michael has to sort of, I don't know how to get back from that, but he has one turn, it seems, but Andrew has infinite mana for the ooze as well, so this game should be over. Yeah, I think the thing that Michael would have to do is draw a Lightning Axe to break up the infinite mana combo before things get too crazy. But sure. It has to be this turn, probably. Yeah. Barring Lightning Axe this turn, Andrew should have this one. But here's an awkward question. How big do you make the Conjurant here? Because the game's going to continue going. It's not like Walking Ballista where they're at 18, I need to make 36 mana, make it an 18/18. Yeah, I like probably a 40 mana Ugin probably is enough to never have it die in combat, but still. Right. And the other thing is, unlike a normal X mana XX, this one loses counters every time it gets blocked. So each time a zombie blocks it, it'll lose 2 counters. True. Yeah. Okay. But, I guess. But with Michael at 18, I agree that 40 sounds pretty safe. And fortunately, Andrew is pretty fast at the mechanics of this combo. Yeah, I don't think this is the first time he's played that part of the combo as well. Yeah, I don't think this is the first time he's played Devoted Druid Vizier together. He knows probably not. All the little Magic Online tricks. Yeah. I heard you explain the M key. That's a key one. Michael and I both wasn't aware of that one, and we've been playing Magic Online for a long time. Yeah, that's a nice little secret trick. If you just hold M and just spam click it, good things will happen. You'll keep making mana. That's what I go for. 40/40 Ugin's Conjurants will happen. Yeah. It looks like Andrew might stop a little earlier because he's kind of slowing down already. I think he might stop at around 30. Yeah. I mean, he also knows he has the kill next turn, so that might be. Yeah, so it probably doesn't matter. No, we may have been right about the 40 estimate. Oh, here we go. Maybe he'll go to an even 50. Oh. Still going.
I actually have a guess about what number Andrew's going to, but I don't want to say. I think it's higher than 50. Yep, I know where he's going. I know exactly where he's going, but I'm not going to say.
Does he have about 10 more in him?
Yeah, about 10 more now.
Okay. Well, that's a very nice Ugins Conjuring then.
Oh, yeah. And this whole time, Michael might think that Andrew actually has a walking ballista.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And then he's dead. We don't really know what's going through Michael's head at this point.
Yeah, well, I guess after 40, he's like, okay, he probably doesn't have the ballista at this point. Maybe a very large Court of Calling.
Yeah.
Just to be sure.
Definitely a tough read for Michael.
And Michael might even think at this point, okay, I'm still safe, although I need an answer to scavenging you at this point.
Yeah, because it's kind of weird, right? Because once you see someone has infinite mana and can't win the game, all they can do is make a big creature. It might make you think you're safe even for future turns.
Yep, that's true.
So Michael can Nature's Claim the Leyline and then neonate the bridge at some point, but there's going to be awkwardness with the ooze.
It's going to be, he needs to find a lightning axe, particularly off this draw, basically. Well, he does because he needs to.
Yeah, he gets one more try with the neonate. So one more look at it before things are really over, but he might even be slow playing it, in which case, if he lets...
I guess from Michael's perspective, he wants to keep the neonate until Andrew attacks, right?
And so if he goes for the neonate, he's just conceding on the spot, whereas he wants more time. So if it gets to Andrew's main phase, it's over, and there it is. It made it to Andrew's main phase. Michael doesn't even end up taking the extra look at a lightning axe, which I believe was the correct play from his perspective. I agree. It just didn't work out.
Yep.
And Michael's not going to make him make infinite mana again. Doesn't need to torture poor Andrew.
All right, so I think that was probably turn 5, right? I mean, they're getting pretty slow at this point.
Yeah, what are these slowpokes doing?
Okay, so it seemed like Andrew maybe just kept like one Kieran.
Yeah, kept one Kieran to Aladomri's call for if Michael had a bunch of bridge tokens out, or if he was ahead on board and thought an Armageddon would win him the game. Yeah, but on the draw, that's just too slow. So he'd rather have more Conjurants, be able to make the infinite more often.
And Michael thinking about cutting a few Hogak. What do you think is the card that's most easily cut from the black-red deck?
So I actually haven't played with Hogak that much. I cut kind of a mix of Bloodghast and Vengevine, the ones that come back.
A good old shave.
Yeah, because those are kind of the ones that they're only good once you're kind of already doing your thing, is I think part of the idea there. And I'd be reluctant to cut Hogak just because of how explosive it is. So my intuition would be to go another way.
Andrew has a near perfect hand, and Michael needs a lot of help to get on with this.
Yeah, so Andrew doesn't have a way to kill with infinite mana, but he does have the infinite mana scavenging ooze like he did last game. That is pretty strong.
That's very good insurance for him. Michael does have a way to break up the combo, but at the same time, he also needs a Nature's Claim to have this deck functioning.
Yeah, and not just the Nature's Claim, but also an Overgrown Tomb, because he doesn't have the green mana either.
Yep.
Ranger Captain of Eos does represent a way to use infinite mana, so but Michael will surely Lightning Axe.
Yeah, that does not look good for Michael at this point. He has to kill Druid here.
Yeah, although I'm not sure Andrew could combo next turn anyway, because I think he's short white mana, because he needs that Adomri's Call for Vizier.
He needs to break out the mana as well. I think. And there's no more threatening creature in the deck than the Druid, so you might as well try to get it off the table as quick as possible.
Yeah, but even if he hadn't, it wouldn't have been a kill this turn, because Aladomri's Call for Vizier is 2 white, and the Ranger requires 2 white as well.
Oh, that's right. The requirements are too heavy. Even though he had the Bird of Paths, it was 1 short.
Yeah, he needed 4 white, so he would have had to fetch for Temple Garden on 1, but doesn't matter now. So what does Andrew do now? He could Aladomri's Call for Devoted. He could also just get the Ranger Captain down, just kind of stop the beatdowns at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like, I like getting the ranger down to block, or even maybe even just a scavenging use, and then end of turn Illidanri's Call.
Yeah, that's true. The ooze can also block because while Leyline shuts off your opponent's graveyard, it doesn't shut off yours. So Andrew could ooze his own devoted.
Michael breaks up my graveyard interaction, so that would be my main concern from Andrew's side.
Yeah,
and that's why I would just get some insurance in the scavenging use as quick as possible. But
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of like your play as well. But here we are.
But I mean, he has all the riches, Andrew, at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of a choose your own adventure at this point.
Deciding how to kill Michael.
Yeah, exactly. The one way I could see Michael getting out of this is if he immediately draws the overground, plays Altar, then rips the Nature's Claim next turn. Altar could maybe power through an ooze. That's the type of card that could mill so many cards that it could actually power through. It still would be tough, but I think that's Michael's best chance.
Yeah, and that's already pushing it. All right, I think at this point he's probably out of outs.
Oh, and Michael figured it out.
Oh, okay.
Caught himself before he went for that.
That's good.
And Andrew's still just saving the Illidanri's Call. Doesn't want to pull the trigger.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he can draw either side of the combo and then find the other half.
Right. He only has one Vizier, so it would be reasonable to just go for Devoted at this point. He also could just go for a creature with power and try to kind of get his beat down on. Bondi's already to 9, and he has a Ballista to finish him off as well.
Maybe just cast a big Ballista at this point.
Yeah, do you tutor for... Oh, interesting.
Okay, yeah, he just wants to halt Michael's chances of playing more than one spell a turn.
Right, so he's trying to deny Nature's Claim on Leyline into Stitcher's Supplier or a place like that.
Yeah,
and that was a smart play by Andrew. He didn't really have more pressure, and so decided to get the disruptive creature as opposed to the higher statted one. Yeah, I mean that's sort of the other side of a deck, this Druid combo. Even with the Kirin, is that when you're playing against another combo deck, it's not only about executing your own combo, but just as well disrupting the opponents. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And that's where you can see that the bridge deck it has one plan and has to execute it, whereas the devoted Druid deck can sort of dance around a little more. Yeah, I can afford to put in disruptive pieces like Leyline without completely diluting the combo. The combo is a little tighter of a package. Yep. So Team ChannelFireball getting one on the board. Yeah, we're on the board. It's 1-2 now after round 3. And we'll be back for round 4 after this quick break.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Welcome back to Team Modern Super League. I'm Andrew Beckstrom. I'm joined here by Mythic Championship top 8 competitor Michael Bondi. How are we doing, Mike?
Well, I am doing great, but I just got a beating.
Yeah, people were talking about Leyline and the Void leading up to it, and it was actually an interesting thing that happened. Sam and I were walking to work this morning, and we were just like talking, or the other day, and we were like, they're going to bring a Hogak deck. Why are we just putting Leyline and the Void in all of our sideboards? So then we just edited this Celestial Kyrian deck I threw together and just added a couple of Leyline and the Voids. I cut some really cutesy sideboard bullets for Eldamri's call, and it's just just get serious.
Yeah, we actually didn't have the Hogak deck in our initial lineup, but then after the challenges this weekend, where it just kind of blew up like 8 or 16 or something in top 32, then we kind of why are we not just playing this deck? It's just busted. But you came prepared, and that's what metagaming is all about.
Yeah, it was such a weird match. My game 1 hand was 5 lands, Devoted Druid, Court of Calling, and then the whole time I'm just knocking on my desk and nothing came. Then game 2, I had Eldamri's Call ready to go, but I didn't have enough white sources to combo off that turn, so I just had to make a very nice-looking Ugin's Conduit.
Yeah, I was actually initially on the Druid deck. It was me and Andreas who was kind of brewing it up, and I also ran into a lot of issues with the white mana sources, that sometimes you just simply don't have enough to do everything in one turn. Then you delay it one turn and then everything explodes. But I was really just crossing my fingers, and then saying if you have the Ballista, I'm not gonna make you go to 40 mana and click everything through.
Yeah, at one point you just messaged me in chat we're still doing this here? Yeah, but we ended up in similar spots. I mean, we both teams identified that Devoted Druid definitely got some new tools. You guys definitely focused on trying to be as fast as possible, whereas I've got this Celestial Kyrian Ugin's Conduit plan, which maybe will be later, maybe good later on, but we definitely didn't see it come into play because that was not a matchup about trying to blow up your opponent's lands.
No, definitely not. I my last game in the last game I kept a somewhat similar hand as Matt did in an earlier game, with 1 land and an explosive hand and a lightning axe. But then you had the Leyline on 7, and that's just rough beats. Sometimes you just need to be lucky to do well in those matchups when you play against Leylines.
Yeah, and I think for everybody who's starting to thinking about Barcelona next month and that Mythic Championship, which will be Modern, that's what we're thinking about is how do I build a deck that's going to be fast? Because the amount of stuff that Ad actually has to make, because the amount of stuff going on in Modern right now is unbelievable. You're going to be ready for the Neoform decks, the Devoted Druid decks, these Dredgevine decks. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, often it's kind of hard to actually get to, even though it's a month now and you can play it on Magic Online. It's hard to wrap your head around War of the Spark and the impact of the Planeswalkers and everything. But then also you get a dedicated 260 cards, or how many there are in Modern Horizon. That's just all pure Modern All-Stars. So for me it's too much at this point. I need to take a shovel and start digging a hole and just try things that are in that hole, and then eventually get out of the hole again and say, okay, what's new and what's next, and look at the challenges.
Yeah, you got to start your work early. I totally agree with you. I've seen some people being oh, there's going to be a ban announcement next month. What am I going to be testing? And it's I don't know how to build a deck with half of these new cards. Maybe you will once you know what the ban and restricted is but I want to get playing with these cards, and it's been fun so far.
Yeah, and then also there's the London Mulligan in the mix that is online June 12th. So that kind of takes all the empirics that we make from now until then. Kind of they're worth something, but they're not worth their fullest. So that also is in the mix.
Yeah, things are going in a kind of a weird direction. I remember testing for the last Mythic Championship. It was so I'm testing online. I don't have the Mulligan rule. There's going to be known deck lists. And I'm trying to test this Chalice of the Void deck where if I just knew I was playing its affinity, I'd just be Chalice on 0. But I don't know that playing online.
No, yeah. I think I'm really looking forward to the London Mulligan, because there were too many variables at the last MC with open deck list and a London Mulligan. Because I kind of the London Mulligan, I didn't really do that much testing with that in particular, but I really did a lot of theory crafting with how to really benefit of the open deck lists. And I eventually played the Word Person because of the bullets and also the open deck list, so you know what to hit with your Sorcerer Spyglass.
Well, that's a great transition because we're going to get to see Word Prison in action right now. We're going to head on down and see Sam Pardee on Word Prison versus, I believe, Thomas Enevoldsen on Blue Eye Control.
Yep.
So we see opening hands for Sam. No real mana sources.
No. So Sam is playing the Word Prison or you guys are playing the Word Prison where you included the Karn, the Great Creator.
Yes. The other new addition is in Sam's hand right now. That's the blue-green talisman. The enemy talisman's printed for the first time in Modern Horizons. So it gives it a little bit of acceleration. But you guys got some nice new stuff. You got some new Planeswalkers from War the Spark. And what's your new Modern Horizons edition?
Let's just see here. I can't remember. It's so late. I think we play Pact of, what's it called? Force of
Negation.
Yes,
yeah, and that's such a big card for you guys in this matchup because we see Sam getting off, started accelerating. When you look at his hand, he's got 2 Ensnaring Bridges, a Tormod's Crypt, and a Sorcerer's Spyglass. He only has 1 card in his hand that matters, and that's that Sorcerer's Spyglass. So if you had a Force of Negation, it would be great. Yeah,
and the fun thing when I played Weird at the MC, when I tested like on Magic Online, it's not enough to just say like the Spyglass one time on Teferi, because if Teferi gets to resolve and stay on the board, a Cryptic Command is just completely wrecking the board if you don't have like 2 cards that are negating the ability of Teferi. Because then you just bounce the Sorcerer Spyglass that says Teferi, and then bounce the other one that says Jace or whatever it says, and then it's pretty much game over.
And that was all true when you played it at the championship, and we see that Sorcerer Spyglass coming down. Boy, Sam's got some tough pickings because little Teferi throws a big wrench into all this. That minus ability on Teferi Time Raveler allows Thomas to bounce an artifact. So he would be able to bounce that Spyglass and maybe get an activation off with a Jace or a Teferi that could find a Cryptic Command, and then it's just all downhill for Sam from there.
Yeah, but Sam still has the land going. So if the game like stalls for additional turns from now, Sam has a tutor effect for an additional Spyglass. He can replay the Spyglass to say the big Teferi, and then even though he has like 2 blanks in his hand in his Ensnaring Bridge, the game will still go a lot of turns from this point, and nothing is set in stone as of now. But Thomas definitely has the tools to deal with the Weird Person deck.
And the card that Sam's really hoping to draw here is Karn the Great Creator. It's a big new addition for these artifact control decks, and really even non-artifact decks in Modern. Just gives him an extra tutoring element beyond Word of Invention that can help him close out games.
Yeah, so Thomas has the ability here to Snapcaster Opt if Sam draws the Karn, but then Sam has the Tormod's Crypt, which is actually pretty good here if that would be the case. I don't think he's going to fire it off here.
I'm not sure.
But let's see.
Not getting a lot better. Yeah.
Yep. I definitely like that play.
Yeah, it would take a lot of turns before Thomas got another big spell into the yard. Sam's just seen Thomas's hand, so he knows there isn't another big spell coming to flashback with Snapcaster. Yep.
And now he's going to play the Jace here. So again, it leaves Sam in a spot where he can actually play the Karn if he gets to draw it, and then just tutor a card in the sideboard. So the card, every single card from the top of the deck is a potential threat for just closing the game with the Mycosynth Latish, I think it's called.
And unfortunately, Sam can't really make great use of Karn's ability to turn artifacts into creatures. His artifacts are so small, they wouldn't do much of a job at pressuring the Planeswalkers. But if he had big artifacts in play, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So Inventor's Fair is getting sacrificed by Sam. He's going to search his deck for an artifact, and he finds Bottled Cloister. So he's going to try to fight back against Jace the Mind Sculptor in a card advantage game. Many have tried, few have succeeded.
There was a reason that it was banned at some point, at least.
So this isn't going to be as gross. So the Bottled Cloister removes the Ensnaring Bridges from Sam's hand. They'll come back at the beginning of his next turn, and then he'll get to draw an additional card. It's a personal Howling Mine of sorts.
Yeah.
But man,
the thing is,
got a lot of great options.
Yeah, the thing is with the Cloister is if it gets bounced, you just lose the card. So it is with a potential risk. But Sam knows that the Ensnaring Bridge is not gonna win him the game. The Ensnaring Bridges will probably lead to success if he draws like a lot of other cards and Thomas has to like aggro Sam out. But right now, it's not an aggro game. It's more like a card advantage game. So if Thomas bounces the Cloister, it's just 2 Ensnare Bridges, which are like 2 mulligans at this point.
Yeah, and Thomas has a variety of ways to win the game that don't involve attacking. He could use Jace the Mind Sculptor's ultimate. He could have Teferi make an emblem and then start tucking Teferis. So lots of ways to make Sam really miserable to be playing a game of Magic. And to be fair, Sam is playing War Prison, so I don't feel too bad for him. Oh, there's a Karn off the top. Does that do anything for us?
Yes, but Thomas was lucky enough to draw a Mana Leak on his second activation on the Jace the Mind Sculptor. But then we get to fire off an Ancient Steerings, which could get closer to a card that Sam might need. I don't know, does he play more than one Source of Spyglass? He doesn't, right? Main deck?
No, he has the rest in the sideboard. And one of the things that Karn sort of does to the way that you build these decks is that you don't really feel as much pressure to play high-impact cards because you have access to so many more of them with Karn. Unfortunately, that does mean that Ancient Stirring is just not likely to see something that's going to just destroy Thomas here, like a Perilous Vault or an Oblivion Stone. There's nothing like that floating around in Sam's deck.
No. And right now, Sam needs 1 more mana, or 2 more mana to get to resolve Karn, or a card like a Tormod's Crypt, but I don't think he plays more than that. Maybe he plays 2 with the Hokark. I haven't really seen his list. I haven't gone. Let's see. We have it here. So it's 1 Torborg, Chalice of the Void, 1 Grafdigger's Cage. So there's a Grafdigger's Cage. If you draw that, then Karn will be get out of reach from the Mana Leak. But until then, the Snapcaster is just a hard counter for a drawn Karn, which is the way for Sam to win the game right now, I think.
What I'm really rooting for right now is Teferi to tuck Bottle Cloister, and yes, we see it. I think it's going to move us very close to Sam conceding this very unwinnable game. So Snapcaster is going to come in for 2, and like you mentioned, those Ensnaring Bridges are gone for good.
Yeah. So now, I guess if it's a Karn into a Karn and Thomas kind of blanks, then we still have a game. But if that's not the case, then there are a lot of blank cards in Sam's deck.
A play we might see Thomas make here is fire off that Surgical Extraction, and yeah, we're gonna. I saw him highlighting it, but he didn't get to cast it because, as I predicted, Sam did concede after that Bottle Cloister got tucked. So we're going to move on. Sam's got some exciting new cards in his sideboard. I'm going to pull up his deck list here, but I know he has a couple copies of Urza, Lord High Artificer, a couple copies of Psy Master Thopterist.
Yes.
So he's going to try to flip the game a little bit. Unfortunately, Thomas has seen his deck list, so he might get to leave in some removal spells. How did you guys approach this matchup?
So we're talking a lot about what we should do, because the blue-white deck is a lot of cards that does random things against random decks. But sometimes you have counterspells, sometimes you have mass removal, and sometimes you have spot removal. But having this sideboard strategy with both Psy and Ursa kind of makes it hard to take out all of the mass removals and also all of the spot removals, because you kind of need them, both the tempo and the mass removal effect. But you also really need to counter the Karn. So what we're mainly concerned about is the Karn, and then second, the creatures. So we're leaving in a bit of both worlds.
Yeah, Psy is not at its absolute best in this deck. It gives you some utility in terms of being able to whir for bigger things. But you don't have that. You've seen Psy come in out of KCI decks where it's just sacking cantripping artifacts. That's not really what's going on in Sam's deck, so it's just not going to be quite as potent. Urza makes a really, really large artifact most of the time, but this is all sort of stuff that gives you guys a little bit of breathing time to maybe catch up before the game spirals out of control.
Yeah, so I still think if you play Karn and get to lockdown, that's just a straight win out of nowhere if we can't deal with it. But then also having the Psy and the Ursa kind of it doesn't level the battlefield. I still think it's a very bad matchup for the War Person, but it's definitely a way of stealing a game against one of your worst matchups. And I think it's not it still doesn't make it a good matchup, but it makes it a better matchup than it could be.
Yeah, I would guess that the best thing that those creatures are doing is allowing you to be able to pressure the planeswalkers. It's unlikely you're going to be able to get the full 20, but making it so it's not an empty board for a planeswalker is nice. And Sam Mulligan, kind of a medium hand. He's got the Karn and he's got a Whir, but boy, he still could use some more stuff. And that Mox Opal is very far from being online.
Yeah. So Thomas is going to fire off the Opt here, and if he doesn't get a land, we have a very defensive hand here. But he did get the Colonnade here, so he gets to get the double blue, and he also drew a counterspell. So Thomas's hand is very defensive. He has the lands, and is just like kind of waiting for what Sam is doing.
So we're gonna have our first real Force of Negation test that we've seen so far, and it looks like it passes by Thomas's defenses. He's gonna let that one come into play.
Yeah, kind of interesting when Thomas has like the Field of Ruin in hand, but he might think that he's not going to fire off Field of Ruin before Sam's end of turn because he wants to keep up the counterspell. So I can definitely see like the Crucible doesn't really do much at this point.
And yeah, Force of Negation just looks like a total game changer here. I mean, I agree with your assessment. Oh, Sam picked up a Field of Ruin to go with his Crucible of Worlds. That could get something going. But yeah, in terms of what Force of Negation does, the ability for Thomas to be able to play a Jace the Mind Sculptor or a Narset and still be able to counter a Karn, it's just going to make it so much easier for him to play this game.
Yeah, but if I know Thomas correctly, he likes to not getting cheesed. So like tapping out and throwing away the Force of Negation when he doesn't have to. Is something that Thomas often doesn't like to do, because why do it now? Why not just do it later when you can progress the board by getting an island and then opting here?
So an interesting decision Sam had on his turn. He didn't play Mox Opal, and because of Field of Ruin, Sam had the opportunity to cast what would have been a very large Whir. I believe he could have whirred for 4 if he had tapped the land in response. But I don't think there's really anything exciting for 3 he can get with the Crucible play, so we just let it go.
I think most often you play the Whir for 2 in response of a Planeswalker, as he does now, because then he's going to get to see Thomas's hand and just get the Source of Spyglass and negate Thomas's entire turn. And if Thomas didn't have the Force of Negation here, you would get to actually resolve the Karn and just start like getting cards out of the sideboard.
Amazing discipline by Thomas. If Thomas had Force of Negation, that War of Invention, what we would have seen is, I think we would have seen Karn the Great Creator come down and turn Crucible of Worlds into a 3/3, and it would just smash Jace right out of the game.
Yep.
Instead, he plays around it, so the Sorcerer Spyglass just sort of trades with Jace for now, and I think we're going to see, no, Sam's not
Both players.
Yeah.
Both players are showing extremely patience.
And you guys are going to be well rewarded for playing a nice lean 2-color mana base. I'm curious to see. I'm just going to do a quick check to find out how many basics you ran, and hopefully you trimmed, but I've got a feeling you didn't.
Let's see here. We have lands. 6 islands and 2 plains.
8! You guys are running 8 basics? You're killing me.
Yeah, but this is within the perimeter of Thomas not liking to getting cheesed. So 8 basics is where you want to be.
Well, Sam has full knowledge of this, and wow, here we're going to see a Chalice of the Void on 3, and yeah, that's going to demand a counterspell because that would lock out both Narset and Force of Negation. Yep.
So the question is, like, he's probably not going to play the Force of Negation here, so he's probably going to play the Logic Knot. The thing is, if he wants to
playing Force of Negation is that you would get to also play Factor Fiction this turn.
Yeah. And Thomas, not knowing Sam's hand, he probably thinks that Sam didn't have the Karn last turn since Sam didn't play it. And why isn't he playing this turn? To play into open mana, that makes sense, so he's going to play the Chalice. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what the 3 cards are in Sam's hand, since he have had a turn to play all his cards. Wow. So he's playing the Factor Fiction in response.
And great for Thomas. Sam's not going to be able to split this in a great way because there is a bounty of blue cards there. All 5 of the cards are by Factor Fiction or blue, and a couple of them are just not very useful right now. But, well, actually, the Detention Spheres on Sorcerer Spyglass is huge. Oh, man, this is going to be a brutal time for Sam.
Yeah. So I think Supreme Verdict definitely goes in the pile with 3 because it doesn't do anything on the board right now. So the question is, if Up does anything, Thomas can cast it Up from his Flooded Strand. But so Up probably goes with the Supreme Verdict, and then the hardest card to win against is probably Cryptic Command. So that's a good pile, but then it leaves Thomas with the choice between 1 Cryptic Command or 2 Detention Spheres, which is also hard for Sam's both board and way to win the game.
Yeah, I don't see a great way to split it. Like you said, the real crux of the decision for Sam is, does he want to put these spheres into 2 piles or just in the same pile? So at least there's,
But I think this is a good pile for Sam, because he doesn't want to play against Detention Sphere and doesn't want to play against Cryptic, and he can't win against 2 Detention Spheres, presumably.
So if you're Thomas, you just snap off top pile, right?
I think I would take the Cryptic Command if
really.
Yeah.
It looks so attractive to me to just be able to pitch Supreme Verdict to Force of Negation, cast an Opt end of turn, and have D-Sphere for Sorcerer Spyglass, whereas it feels to me like Thomas has so many expensive things to do with his hand already, between holding up counterspells, casting Narset, that taking cheapness is a really valuable thing.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. The thing is that if the game goes as Sam wants to, Thomas can definitely win with a Cryptic Command. Because if you play Karn,
your teammate better than me.
if you play a Sorcerer Spyglass, you get to bounce it. If you play like a card that you have to deal with, you have to Cryptic Command and draw a card. So having Cryptic Command is probably more important than any of the other cards. And then Detention Sphere is just a lesser evil, and that's why it's in the Cryptic Command pile. And I think that's why he put it like that as well.
So I'm surprised to see Chalice of the Void on 3 came down.
Yeah, but then again, now there's the Cryptic Command. So almost like if Sam goes with playing the Karn, Thomas is just gonna bounce the Chalice and then counter the Karn with his Pact of Negation. And if he doesn't go for it next turn, he can play like the Snapcaster Mage and try to like progress his own board. So it doesn't really do that much right now because he has to Cryptic Command to like as a break if things go south.
So yeah, like you mentioned, holding up Cryptic Command sounds like a pretty ideal way to play it out. Unfortunately, Thomas is at 8 cards, so he's going to have to discard the hand size. That Path to Exile could be the one. It is a cheap card.
Yeah.
Vendilion Click or Narset also seem like plausible options. Yeah, we see Narset going away. Thomas is not hurting for cards right now.
He is definitely not. And Narset also, if the game goes on as it does right now, the Narset is not going to come to the enter the battlefield in a couple of turns. So it's just a blank at this point.
So Sam's been very patient about this Karn the Great Creator. Is now the time to pull the trigger?
So
wow, Sam is going to continue to pass. He looks like he's trying to set up where he can do 2 big things in a turn. And honestly, with Force of Negation, that used to be a much better plan than it is now.
Yeah, so let's see if Thomas plays the Snapcaster or the Cryptic Command here. It's the Cryptic Command bouncing the Chalice and drawing card. Yeah.
So that Chalice the Void was pretty expensive for Sam to get down. So this is a nice little tempo play for Thomas. Thomas picks up another Field of Ruin, and he's going to be a little reluctant at least to fire those off, knowing that Sam can Field of Ruin every turn of the game with Crucible of Worlds. Though at some point, I think I'm guessing Sam is now at the point where he has run out of basics in his deck. I believe the Word decks typically run 3. So at this point, Sam's not going to be adding to his land count while doing that, just removing basics from Thomas's deck.
Yeah, there is 3 islands in the deck, so they're all... And some nice islands. I think it's a Portal 3K, maybe.
I'm not a nice basic land expert. I leave that to my teammates. So Detention Sphere takes out Sorcerer Spyglass. Jace the Mindstorm, he's brainstorming. And this is just... I like to play a simple combo deck like Devoted Druid. Way too many choices right now for Thomas, but he seems to be navigating it just fine.
Yeah, we kind of joked in our Pro Tour or MC testing group that Thomas has played Teferi for as long as he could in a streak. So he's up on 4 Mythic Championships / Pro Tours with Teferi. So this is a pretty good pickup with Sai. But Thomas patiently kept his both his Path to Exile and also his his what's it called, logic knot.
Yeah, and can safely logic knot this with Force of Negation in hand. And yeah, the pairing of Force of Negation with expensive sorcery speed planeswalkers that generate cards is just, it's peanut butter and jelly.
But also the spell pierce. If Sam would have like a Karn, he couldn't really get to cast it because even with the Moxo pull, he would be 1 mana short to pay for spell pierce. So Thomas knows that like having 1 mana up with spell pierce and Force of Negation is just like almost a full protection against whatever Sam can play at this point.
So Teleria West, the options here are something like a Mishra's Bauble, another Chalice of the Void, an Engineered Explosives, I think, is floating around. Blast Zone could be good at some point. You guys have a pretty good spread. Jace is on 4, D-Sphere is on 3, so is Sam's Crucible. Teferi's on 5. So I'm not sure what I would do if I were Sam.
No. Thank God it's Sam. Like, he's a very, very good Magic player. So he will probably come up with the best line for him to win this game, even though he's a bit behind.
So some plays are a show of strength. This play is a show of weakness. Unfortunately, with a bevy of zero-cost things to tutor for with Teleria West, Sam said, none of them are remotely good enough. I just need to get something that draws me a random card from my deck.
Yeah. And I think Thomas has the ability to play the Vendilion Clique at some point, or just fire off the Teferi and plus if he wants to. So it's going to be interesting which line Thomas chooses to play here. Playing Teferi will leave him up with a Spell Pierce and a Force of Negation, which could probably be where he wants to be at. But it's going to be interesting where he thinks the game is going from now. So he is playing the Teferi.
Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, comes down, and yeah, at some point Thomas could start flexing his muscles and using things like the +2 on Jace or the -3 on Teferi, but for right now he's very content to just draw more cards and pull farther ahead.
Yeah, I think having Logic Knot and the Force of Negation, and also having Spell Pierce and Vendilion Clique in the turn, like this leaves him up with a lot of options. So I like this display, and also for next turn it's going to be brutal for Sam. But Sam did draw a Whir of Inventions.
Yeah, Sam is doing a good job at developing his mana sources, drawing multiple impactful cards. But yeah, that Force of Negation is going to do such a good job at sort of breaking up that plan of putting the blue-white deck in a spot where they are limited on mana.
And unfortunately, Sam also knows about the Force of Negation. I think he saw it on the first Spyglass, right?
Yeah. I believe you are correct.
So Sam is trying to navigate around all the potential counterspells that Tom could have drawn up until this point, but also trying to play around the Force of Negation. It must be very hard to navigate in that environment. But he's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's gotten himself into a turn where he's going to be able to play a Chalice of the Void, X=3, and play Karn the Great Creator, and it's just not going to be that hard for Thomas to counter both of these things.
No, so the fun thing is here, if Thomas is just going to hardcast... No, he's going to exile, okay.
He's playing it nice and safe, just going to make sure he has access to tons of mana, so even if 2 more things happen from Sam this turn, he would still be in good shape against them. And Sam, seeing that Thomas decided not to hardcast the Force of Negation, he just lets it. He just is like, no, I got to wait. I got to try to set up this Karn again. This Karn has been in Sam's hand since the opening of the game. And Sam has an amazing intuition for what people have in their hands based upon the way that they've been playing, particularly in the modern format since he plays so much. And I guarantee you, Sam could tell us maybe 3 out of the 5 cards at least that are in Thomas's hand right now.
Yeah, an interesting thing is that Thomas actually threw away the Spell Pierce, which, if his plan was to cast the Vendilion Clique end of turn, which it probably was, he probably should have kept the Spell Pierce to be able to counter a Whir of Invention, which is a way that Sam can get back into the game if he has some shenanigans for X=3 here. And that is what he's doing.
Yep, you called it. Sam's managed to engineer a little bit of a window here. Whir of Invention can get a Sorcerer's Spyglass and lock up one of these Planeswalkers, but it's really got to be Teferi, because if it's Jace, then Teferi just tucks the Sorcerer's Spyglass.
Yep. So I think maybe having 2 two Snapcaster Mages is probably an embarrassment of riches here. He could have pitched one of them, and then being aggro and also still have the Spell Pierce with the Vanilla Key. So maybe it was being a bit greedy there rather than playing safe.
Yeah, and interesting that Thomas did indeed tuck the Karn. He had plenty of counter spells for Karn, and he actually drew Sam into a card that he can't counter. Fortunately, Thomas does have multiple Field of Ruin, so it's going to be pretty hard for Sam to actually charge up this Blast Zone and pop it off. Over time, Sam can sort of work through that because he can replay it through Crucible. But if during all this time Jace is just brainstorming, that's a little fishy.
Yeah, but I think the thing about Karn is out of nowhere, you just lose the game. So even if you have like 10 counter spells, if you have to fight over a Karn, if Sam has something to do, then eventually when a Karn resolves, you just die. So it's better for Sam to just have a random card in hand than an actual Karn. That is the way the Sam will win the game. So I think that's why he tucked it.
So what you're saying is Sam's deck sucks. The only good card is Karn.
No, I think Sam thing is very, very good, but it's against Blue-White and against the Esper, it's a rough matchup because they have so many ways of like trying to cancel your game plan.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing around with you. I totally agree with your assessment. The prison deck gets ahead of you by sort of like locking you down and just trying to win through attrition and just slowing the game down. And these Planeswalkers just say no to that plan. So at that point, Karn is really the only thing that can break that paradigm.
But it's pretty nice here. The Sam is he's firing off double Field of Ruin to actually get to resolve the Blast Zone and not having it being like a threat from the Field of Ruin. So he can next turn he can play the Blast Zone, and then slowly with the Crucible Worlds he can start grinding the different like converted mana costs. So probably like 3, and then 4, then 2, depending on how much his life total is at that point.
And meanwhile,
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, while we're spending all this time talking about card advantage and charging up Blast Zones, there are creatures on the battlefield, and I don't see an Ensnaring Bridge for Sam.
No, I don't know if he boarded them out. He probably boarded out like down to 2 or something because they are a liability to draw like early in the game. So
we see a fancy little play here. Thomas is using Cryptic Command to pick up Detention Sphere and draw a card.
Yeah.
Why did he make that play?
To draw a card and then to replay the Detention Sphere to take away both Source of Spyglasses. So you like use all the mana end of turn, then you replay it, and then you get both of your Planeswalkers live. It is a pretty neat play. It's like remanding your own spell when your opponent counters it. When you play enough, then sometimes these scenarios come up.
My hypothesis is that you can measure the proficiency of a control mage by how often they use the return target permanent mode on Cryptic Command.
Okay.
Especially on their own permanents.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Because the masters are doing things like picking up their Snapcaster mages to give them access to counter spells, doing all sorts of shenanigans like that. And this Detention Sphere play was just absolutely amazing for Thomas.
Yep.
Unlocks both of his Planeswalkers, and now Sam has to deal with the fact that he's only at 11. There's 5 in play. Another Snapcaster could come down. I'm a little surprised that Thomas didn't get down Celestial Colony because he actually would just have lethal next turn.
Yeah, but I think...
But why is Thomas not playing it more aggressive?
I don't know. Like, right now, I'm feeling a bit ashamed of myself that I said that he should have pitched the Snapcaster Mage, because the Snapcaster Mage is just such a good card right now. Oh, my computer just
got tons of lands. So
yeah, he got tons of lands, and it also like it really applies pressure. So even though now if Sam plays the Blast Zone and kills like the Converted Mana cost 2, there will be a Converted Mana cost 3 creature that will kill him in 2 turns. If he does the 3 creature, then it's also a 2-turn clock after that. So I think Thomas has done a very good job of dividing his converted mana costs because I didn't even think about a card like Blast Zone.
So I don't like the way that Sam played this. I'm curious as to exactly why. Right now, Factor of Fiction has flashback in the yard, and Sam with Tormod's Crypt could just force the action on Thomas to choose whether or not to use Factor of Fiction or let it be exiled. Instead, he's just going to let the turn float through with it. and play spells while that's still going on.
But I presume that Sam is thinking like he's so far behind that he needs the Bottle Cloister to resolve and then draw 2 cards that should be gas next turn. So he wants Thomas to actually counter the spell skite, or fire off something else like fire off the Effective Fiction in response, so that he's tapped out, and then Sam can play the Bottle Cloister. So he's trying to like trap Thomas into using all of his mana, I would presume. That's why he's playing like this kind of off the grid. What's it called? Yeah, he's doing like in a weird order, like he's playing his spells. I think that's the reason why.
So Thomas isn't going to wait. He's just going to Path to Exile the Spellskite immediately, recognizing that, yep, Sam only had 3 basic islands in his deck. He's already got them all in play. Yeah,
and even if he forgot it the first time, Sam like bombed a lot of Thomas's lands. So he didn't fetch like the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So the Path to Exile was pretty safe here.
Despite Sam having access to Field of Ruin, Crucible of Worlds this whole game, Thomas actually picked up a Field of Ruin, and he can actually just use that as a strip mine on Sam because he's still got basics, but Sam's out.
Yeah, and I think Sam's way to victory here is to use the blast zone.
There's no way to victory. You're trying to make me feel better. Thomas is just firing things off at random. He's tucking Crucibles with Teferi.
It is tough. But I think like relying on the blasting zone and was a good line from Sam's part. But Thomas was a bit too aggressive with his creatures. So I think we're gonna see a concession soon.
Yeah, Sam's going to draw and see there's no miracle I win the game on top of his deck. And you guys are going to be up 3-1. Our back's up against the wall. It's first to 4 wins tonight.
Yep. So the Chalice of Toy is a concession.
All right. Well,
good job, Thomas.
So we're going to be going to commercial in just a second. Up next, we have Andres. He's playing your Humans deck, which has got the new Ranger Captain of Eos up against me. I'm playing Infect with Teferi and Scale Up, so that'll be fun.
So good luck to both of you. Maybe if you win, we will get to play more Magic. So there's an upside.
You don't want to get to bed?
Yeah, but it's so late already. So my child wakes up in 1 hour, so I think it's better to just stay up.
All right, sunk costs are what they were. All right, we're going to head to commercial, and we'll be back real soon.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again. I am doing and having the honor of doing commentary with Sam Pardee. So welcome, Sam Pardee, and I'm very sorry about the loss before.
Hey, yeah, I mean, it happens. That is not the matchup that you want to face with War Prison.
No.
Force of Negation also felt brutal in that matchup. Like,
yeah, I
normally,
agree.
You could feel like you could get something going. You like end of turn War for something good, and they have to react then. But as it was, you could just like counter that and then still have a counter spell up. So that was pretty tough for me. Felt like
But I
a pretty
think
bad matchup.
Yeah, but I think you knew the Force of Negation from turn 2 or turn 3. No, on turn 4 when Thomas cast the Jace. So what went through your mind, like, because you were so you held the Karn like so for such a long time in your hand and just like trying to play around. It was very interesting to see what went through your head.
My hope was to either find Chalice for 3 and force it through, which I tried to do, but there was just too much other counter magic in the mix.
Yeah.
Or set up a scenario where maybe I could like get an end of turn word to resolve while Thomas was tapped low and grabbed the defense grid that I had boarded in.
Yeah.
And try to maybe catch him off guard that way and get Karn into play.
Yeah. Okay.
But they all felt like pretty low percentage plays. Obviously, like it really. I didn't have that many relevant spells in the matchup, and Thomas had plenty of counter magic, so it felt like he kind of had me covered at every turn there.
Yeah, I tested it for the Pro Tour, and the Esper deck with the Kaya and also the Blue-White deck, it's just it's a beating. And with Force of Negation in the mix and the new Teferi, it's I could imagine that it's even harder.
Yeah. Cryptic Command is really not the deck you're hoping to play against, or not the
No.
card you're hoping to play against. And then I got some new tricks, but not enough.
Nah, but the match that we're gonna see now is an Andreas Peterson against Andrew Beckstrom. And Andreas is on humans, and Andrew is on Simic Infect. So how come you choose Simic Infect?
Well, we actually went with Bant. We have Teferi in our main deck, hoping that the new Teferi from War of the Spark is good.
Yeah.
It won't actually, I think, be very good in this matchup. Not a lot of instant speed interaction going on. But the ability, to theoretically shut down your opponent from casting spells at instant speed could potentially be very powerful.
Yeah.
But this feels like it's going to be sort of more of the old style Infect versus Humans, just basically the way the matchup used to be. And Teferi probably won't come to bear too much. I think BK is planning on boarding them out.
Okay. I haven't played I've never played Infect, and I haven't played that much Humans because I played other decks, and time is is a factor. So can you tell us how back in the day how the matchup kind of rolls out?
So I mean, I think that the Infect player definitely is the aggressor. They're trying to enact their game plan. The Humans player sort of wins if the game goes a certain length. If they're going to be dealing a certain amount of damage every turn, and it's going to go up every turn. So if the game goes on about 5 turns, BK is going to die. And Blighted Agent, I think, is going to be one of the key creatures here. And also, Andrew's deck has 2 copies of Distortion Strike, which is really good at getting through blockers because the Humans deck is really good at gumming things up. And then from Thomas's side, I think the key creatures are the disruptive ones. So Thalia, Meddling Mage, the Kitesail Freebooter, and Reflector Mage counts as disruption in this matchup because it can bounce, it can bounce an Infect creature. And sometimes at instant speed if they have an Aether Vial, which is a spot where Teferi actually might come up. Teferi can interact with Aether Vial and bounce it. So if Thomas has a hand that's, highly leveraged on Aether Vial, Teferi might be a really potent effect there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's going to be interesting to see if Andrew can get this tempo. It sounds like if he gets out of the gates really fast, and Thomas doesn't really have these effects that negate them, then Andrew is kind of the favorite. But with a little bit of stumble, then the Humans will take over quite fast.
Yeah, I would say each turn the game goes on, BK's less favored, and it sounds like the game's ready to go.
Yeah. So let's head down to the battlefield and see these 2 masters battle it out. So what do we have here, Sam?
So on BK's side, no Infect creature, but like scale up plus distortion strike plus 2 noble hierarchs, this actually adds up to a ton of damage. Just normal damage, right? Like the first scale up plus distortion strike on a noble hierarch, because it keeps the abilities, is a total of 8 damage. The second one is also 8 damage, plus the second noble hierarch would make it 20, and then there's a Might of Old Crocet in there for good measure. So this might just be a keep where you try to just kill with regular damage. I think that seems like a reasonable plan.
Yeah, and I even think with a top deck land, it's probably a turn 3 kill.
Yeah, it looks that way to me as well.
Yeah.
And Andreas looks like he's taken a mulligan and has double Meddling Mage and, you know, a Champion of the Parish to apply pressure. So I'm guessing he's going to want to lead off on the Champion rather than the Noble, which is, I think, a little bit unusual out of the Humans deck.
Yeah.
But it might work out well.
But I know Andreas, like lately he has been playing some Humans, and he's also been like talking a lot to Thomas with the Infect. So he probably knows how the matchup is gonna like play out. And I think whatever turn 1 play that he plays is gonna determine if he wants to be the aggressor here or the control. So he's gonna go with the Noble Hierarch to see if he can like delay the game or and get some resources out.
Yeah, setting him up to double spell next turn, he can play the Champion and the Meddling Mage.
And I think especially with Andrew going off or starting off with the Noble Hierarch, you're not in an imminent danger of just dying straight up to a turn 2 kill here.
Right. And so it looks like BK is going all in Distortion Strike and Scale Up, hit you for a bunch. But now the interesting thing here is Meddling Mage can actually name Distortion Strike and it won't be castable off Rebound.
Yeah.
And then a block will be able to happen.
Yeah, Andreas could also think, what can he have, and try to snipe him with a Meddling Mage here. So it's going to be interesting if he goes with the Scale Up, if that's the card that actually kills. So it's going to be interesting. I think what you're saying that he's going to do the Defiant Strike, or is it called Defiant Strike? No, that's the one white. Distortion Strike, yeah. He's probably going to do that because that's the save. But he might get a little frisky here and see if he can do a big brain play.
Yeah. What happens if he names Scale Up and then let's say like that BK peels something perfect? Could he? Does he risk then losing to something great? Also of note, the Horizon Canopy dealing him some damage, which actually is coming into play here.
Yeah. So I have a hard time seeing what he.
Yeah, I can't really see either, but it looks like it was Distortion Strike because Andrew didn't cast one during his upkeep.
Yeah, that's the way of showing. So yeah, he definitely did that, and then the other Meddling Mages are gonna like start naming the spells that are actually like a threat for Andreas's life total here.
Right, and I wonder if to some extent he wants to name Blighted Agent just to keep that off the board, because with two Noble Hierarchs, if you guess wrong with a couple of Meddling Mages, you could get yourself into some trouble, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's the fun part of Meddling Mage, at least when you play it. It's I think Meddling Mage is an unfun card to play against because it's it either does nothing or it's like completely devastating.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit all in.
So let's see what he's gonna Noble Hierarch and then.
Yeah, it looked like he was deciding whether it was worth the 1 life to get the Noble Hierarch into play, and he decided that yes, it was, because it lets him hit quite a bit harder with the Champion of the Parish this turn.
And Andreas is really like showcasing his Meddling Mage naming skills here by drawing the entire playset. So we can definitely see what he's afraid. So we get a tap in on his thought process, what he thinks that he's going to lose against.
Yeah, definitely. So what does he have on the second one? Blighted Agent. So
Blighted Agent,
that's what he was worried about.
Yeah, so it's a good call, Sam. It's right on point. So it's nice to see what he's also afraid about.
Yeah. And BK is getting close to overloading the Scale Up, although it would tap all of his creatures, so it's not so great. We'll see what he goes with here. He could just attack with a Noble Hierarch and use Might of Old Crocet as a pump spell against any blockers.
Yep, but if he doesn't play the land first, he could attack with the Blighted Agent, and also just like threat lethal so that Andreas has to has to block. But I guess it's also threatening lethal when he's attacking with a Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, regular damage actually better than infect damage here.
Yeah,
he's at
it's only
functionally
one
zero
possible.
infect, but
Yeah.
So okay, he's throwing the distortion strike meddling mage under the bus here. Seems like a reasonable choice.
Yeah, I don't even know. Maybe he looked up how many you're playing.
We have 2, so a second one would be game if that shows up. But
Yeah,
of course the odds are not good of that.
No, but maybe he actually looked at our list because we only play 1 in our list. So maybe he's thinking that you're also playing 1.
Could be. Yeah,
because,
I think he's in the clear.
Yeah, because but it is true that the Blighted Agent is a 4-off still in the deck, and Distortion Strike is only a 1-off. So
right. Oh, interesting. So he's choosing to attack with Meddling Mage here, even though it's quite a bit slower of a clock, because he wants to preserve Champion of the Parish as a big blocker.
Yep.
That's actually a really heads-up play, because I don't think it really changes the math too much. Like, I don't think dealing an extra, 2 or 3 damage with the Champion is a big deal.
No.
But getting, being able to block an attack without and forcing BK to commit a pump spell seems really good. Yeah,
and also Andrew has like 4 creatures, so he can like chump eventually. So the game is not gonna like end in 1 turn from now. It will like postpone in a couple turns until he doesn't have any blockers left if he doesn't draw anything. So I like attacking with the Meddling Mage as well.
And so if you're Andreas here, what are you naming with the second Meddling Mage that you're playing now? What are you scared of?
It's good. I would say Distortion Strike, because it's just you just lose on the spot. But I don't know what he.
Oh, looks like he went with Teferi. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Teferi resetting Champion of the Parish would be pretty bad.
Yeah. So Teferi, because it's a 3-off in the deck, and it's not gonna win on the spot, but it's gonna set Andreas so much back that it's definitely worth naming.
Yeah, that seems like a really heads-up play to me.
Yep, I like these Meddling Mage plays, because you know what Andreas is afraid about, and he's also just doing like the math. So this is a 3-1. So even though I lose to a Distortion Strike, how many games how often will I lose if he draws a Teferi? I'll probably also lose, or at least get set back this much. So I'm just gonna say Teferi here. So I like that as well.
Yeah, that seems really good. So I noticed you guys have Horizon Canopy in your humans deck. Did you end up playing any of the blue-green land in your humans deck as well?
We played it in. I don't think so, but let's just look it up here. No, it's just the 4 Horizon Canopy.
Did you consider that one? Because that seemed like one that was interesting to me. Humans seemed like a deck that was on the cusp of being interested in maybe having more than 4 copies of that effect.
I think we were talking about it at some point, but I don't think Andreas had enough time to test how awful the mana base with like an additional sort of 5th, the 6th, or the 7th. Because a lot of the time when you don't play more than 19 lands, if you play 6, like 1/3 of your lands that deal your damage, you're just gonna like give away a lot of equity against a lot of the really aggressive decks. So it is a liability, and it's not always that you're gonna draw. Like in this game, you're not sacrificing to draw, so it's just 1 damage each turn.
Yeah, he's taken a decent amount of damage from that Horizon Canopy, and it's kind of had to dictate some plays. Like he's had to block the Noble Hierarchs with, he threw that Meddling Mage away basically to save 2 life, although potentially more because he didn't know what the pump spell situation in Andrew's hand was.
Yeah, and also the land is like Ancient Cigarette and Unclaimed Territory and Cavernous Souls, so it's all like Utopia lands. So if you put in like a 2-colored land, you still you can't play all your creatures in your deck. So that's also a downside.
Yeah, you definitely run some risk of getting Kite Sail Freebooters stuck in your hand at a certain point.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting here because he's really thinking about what he should do, and but he drew the Talia and just attacking with the Champion of Paris.
Right, and now after the attack with the Meddling Mage, attacking with Champion seems really good because now it's just lethal, so it forces a block on BKs.
Yeah. So it's just it's an abyss, the abyss each turn.
Exactly. And he's got a final Meddling Mage to go. Let's see what he goes with here. It seems like Distortion Strike is what you would pick. But I could imagine, probably Distortion Strike seems reasonable. I'm trying to think what else could even beat him. We didn't play any Apostles' Blessings or anything like that. Yeah, I think it's probably just going to be that. He went with Groundswell. Okay, so Distortion Strike's still live for BK.
But I think he's looking at our list and not looking at your list when he doesn't say Distortion Strike, because it's a top deck that just wins the game on the spot. So I think the correct play here is to say Distortion Strike, because he's so much ahead that that we don't want to lose to 1 in 46 Distortion Strike.
Yep, that seems right to me. So now Reflector Mage is going to come down, try to bounce something. Presumably BK is going to use Blossoming Defenses to stop that from happening, because he actually needs to keep blockers around so he doesn't die to an Alpha Strike.
Yep.
And yeah, it seems like BK is now on only, it's basically Distortion Strike or bust at this point, because that champion's going to come in, require a block, and a few more creatures. It looks like BK could fall down to 1 here and lose. Well, he'd probably have to use a Might of Old Krosa to save one of his Noble Hierarchs. Then if he draws Distortion Strike, he'll have exactly enough mana to play Strike, scale up, and win the game. That's assuming an Alpha Strike happens.
But if he alpha strikes, then he's gonna. Andreas must think that there must be some pump spells in Andrew's hand. So if he alpha strikes, 2 Meddling Mages are gonna die, and that might not be that good, because then if the last one is one of the cards that Andreas is afraid of, Andrew gets to play it. So I don't know if he's just gonna like chip in with the champion, or if he's gonna alpha strike. It's gonna be interesting to see, at least.
I guess it's not that different, because you can Alpha Strike next turn, and BK is mostly shut off from playing creatures anyway. Like he can play any Noble Hierarchs or Glistener else he draws, but Blighted Agent is shut off by the Meddling Mages.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
So I like just attacking with the champion, but he's probably just the reason why it took a bit here is he's probably checking the deck list to see if there's what he's your play around. And then he's like, oh, there's a Distortion Strike, and then should I all out or should I not all out? And then the combat math changes.
Yeah, definitely. So so he's going with just the champion, which I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Also, it kind of negates the value that Andrew has from casting the Blossoming Defense, making the Dryad a 3/3 and already a blocker for one of the Meddling Mages.
Right. And BK bricked off here, so that'll do it. He doesn't have a lot left. So let's take a look at the sideboards here. Looks like Andreas quickly bringing in Dismember and Deputy of Detention.
Yeah. Andreas and I had to take care of some family things with my child. But Andreas and Thomas, before they went to bed at 10, they were talking about how to sideboard. So I think Andreas has a clear cut what he wants to sideboard here. So it shouldn't be.
Yep, looks like Phantasmal Image and Thraben Inspector coming out. And on BK's side, Dismember in, a little more interaction for the disruptive creatures. And Teferi out as Teferi and Spell Pierce out. Spell Pierce really has no good targets in the matchup.
No.
Looks like maybe a couple Teferis coming back in. On the play, that makes some sense to me. Teferi is pretty effective if you play it on turn 2.
Yeah, especially like if Andreas can't say it as the first card, and then he's gonna play it and then bounce the Meddling Mage, it's gonna kind of dictate the game from that point.
Right.
And now we have the opening hands, and it seems like Andrew has a pretty good hand here, and Andreas is a reactive hand, but not that great. So, and he's also mulliganing.
Oh, and now one land Aether Vial, normally not so bad, but Ancient Ziggurat.
Yeah, that's the downside of playing the Utopia lands.
Right.
You can stretch your mana base so far, but eventually you'll get hit by the variance of it, or the downside of it.
So BK has a pretty fast clock, although it looks like he's sort of one pump spell short from piecing the whole thing together. And Andreas has a fast clock. Champion of the Parish into probably Meddling Mage into Thalia's Lieutenant is going to hit really hard.
Yeah.
But, he's going to have to play a guessing game with this Meddling Mage. And even if he guesses right, there's a Dismember in BK's hand that he can just deploy.
Yeah, so potentially every single card from the top of Andrew's deck is lethal for Andreas, and also he has a Dismember to just like to say no to a Meddling Mage that negates that plan or stifles that plan. So
right,
I think
it's going to be pretty effective though.
Yes, but if Andrew like goes for it, I still think that it is a 2-turn clock, right?
So he can Dismember Thalia and then Groundswell hit for 5. That leaves him a little vulnerable to Reflector Mage, so he might be a little nervous to do that. But it's definitely an option. We'll see what he decides to go with. Looks like he's just getting in for 1.
Yeah. So if he gets in for 1 here, he can see if there's a Reflector Mage, then he can end of turn kill the Thalia and just kill Andreas on his own turn. So I definitely like this play from Andrew.
Does he actually have enough to kill on his next turn? He needs to draw a land, right?
Oh yeah, he needs to draw land. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little risk averse on BK's part, but I think that makes sense when your opponent's on a mull to 5. You should try to play a little more conservatively.
But the thing is here, he could have kept the land in hand, but that makes him a little bit vulnerable to a Reflector Mage still because he can't kill the Thalia in the same turn and also Blossoming Defense. So he played the land untapped to actually be able to do both, and I kind of like that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good play. It does now leave BK actually open to a Mantis Rider off the top, right? I think that would race him. So he has to be a little bit wary of that. Actually, even is he just dead to another human? Because right now, any human that costs 1 or 2, because there's 5 showing, plus 2 from the Meddling Mage, plus 2 from any human. So I think BK may be a little too conservative and might have himself in some trouble here. He could try to block this turn, and then if he draws a land, he can win.
Yeah.
But that again, a lot of risk calculation going on here. I think that's what this game has been about.
Yeah. So this time Andreas didn't draw like he drew in, even with the mulligan to 5. He actually drew into an aggressive hand. So what he has been doing is just like playing creatures and attacking each turn. But Andrew has been every single turn has been like a decider in which direction that he wants to go. Do I want to play protective against Thalia? Do I want to play protective against the Reflector Mage? Or do I want to kill? And now it's kind of biting him that he didn't go for the kill, but he has the block as you're saying with the pump spell. So it isn't over yet. Let's just say it like that.
So if he blocks, he has to get through 9 poison next turn. So he'll probably block and use vines, I guess. That makes the most sense.
Yeah, and then if he draws a land next turn, it should be it is lethal with Groundswell is 4, so it's 5. Yeah, so it's lethal.
Wow, and another tough spot for BK. If he had attacked, as it turned out, Andreas wasn't going to hit, so he was only going to get for 7. I approve of BK's play, actually. I think it's
I like it as well.
Likely that Andreas was going to be able to play 2 spells, but just another case of it not quite working out correctly.
Yeah. So now Andreas has to either sacrifice his Horizon Canopy and then play the Meddling Mage, or play it first. But I think he's going to just sacrifice the Horizon Canopy here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You only have 1 spell to play for the turn. Maybe you find something you like better than Horizon Canopy. Like a Thalia would almost lock up the game, right? It would make it really hard for BK to kill next turn.
Yep.
So
I think
I guess BK, if Thalia comes down, BK is going to be in really bad shape. So oh wow, there it is.
So now I think it's a creature from a BK side, and then he's still like in this game. But if there isn't a creature like on the top of his deck, then I think it's gonna be tough.
So you think he's gonna just trade with Champion of the Parish? Is that the play here?
I think he's gonna fire off the. Yeah.
I guess what BK can do actually. Oh no, I was gonna say he could cast Blossoming Defenses and Vines in response to the Thalia
Yeah.
and try to discourage any attacking.
But then he doesn't have lethal on the backswing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that would actually have worked out very well. Okay, so there's just the champion coming in. That seems like a pretty good attack.
But I think he
lethal anyway.
I think he just needs to take it here, right? And then hope for a land. No, it's not. It's still not lethal.
No, land. Yeah, land does not do it. Right. He can get 4 from the Groundswell for 2 mana, and then 2 from the Blossoming Defenses, but that's just not enough.
But I think what he can do here is that he can fetch a Dryad Arbor.
Right. He can fetch Dryad Arbor block.
But then he goes. But then he goes to 2.
3 creatures. Yeah.
Then he goes to 2. So that's not even a. Yeah. So everything kind of aligned poorly in Andrew's favor here, and.
Yep.
I like the play where he played the untapped land, but eventually it was just it wasn't enough. So unfortunately, Andrew lost the game, and there's no more magic. But I am not completely devastated about that loss.
Yeah, I mean, look, last time in the Team Vintage Super League, we lost to you guys in round 1, came back, ran the tables, and won and beat you guys in the finals. So hopefully we can repeat that again.
And I can say it reverse. We lost to you in the finals, but now we came back and we turned the tables.
Exactly.
So we're trading blows. I guess that's also a great thing.
Yeah, some great Magic, some really fast games of Modern tonight.
Yeah, and I know that you tried, and we also tried to showcase some of the new tools that Modern has in its horizon. Going into Barcelona next month at the MC4. And this, even though it was quite fast, we've been playing for 2.5 hours, this was actually the last game of tonight. So who's playing next week? We can see here it's play design. Oh, no, that was
Jerry Terry's versus the Brew Crew, it looks like.
Yes. So we have some great Magic players, some great Personas, and some great Brewers going into next week's Team Modern Super League. So hopefully you'll tune in to watch that as well and see them fight out as we have fought tonight.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone, tonight.
Yeah, and thanks for commentating, Sam, and thanks to everyone in production. So I would like to say thank you all for watching, and see you guys next week. And not just guys, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.